This is the shirt. Toast.
Oh, nice.
Oh,
That's
that's
that
cool.
shirt. Okay.
It's a little pocket one. Yeah.
Nice. Very nice.
That's nice.
But yeah. Let me just start with myself. I'm Mr. Dolphin. I was the first ARK SOTF champion. And then I just stream ARK on Twitch for the past 8 years. And yeah, that's pretty much where I am right now. What about you, Toast? I think you are. You want to do some quick introduction so people know who you are?
Yeah, I'm Utoast. I am the original meta maker for official tribes. And I won a couple of SOTF championships, I think. And I mean, yeah, that's a nice stream on Twitch every now and then, I guess.
What about you, Icebox? You want to do a quick introduction?
Yeah, I'm actually very similar to you. I remember before I even started streaming, I had a friend of mine called Golden Savior, and he used to watch your streams, Dolphin.
Huh.
And he was a big fan. I like at the time I didn't watch ARK content.
Right.
But he was just a huge fan. So anytime we ran into you in Survival of the Fittest, he was just fanboying, like, "Oh, it's Dolphin! Let's kill him or let's get on his stream." He kind of wanted to stream snipe you, and just because you won the tournament, and then at the time, you were probably one of the only few ARK streamers streaming Survival of the Fittest. And they had a second tournament for the same prize pool. And me and that buddy that I mentioned, the Golden Savior, and a couple other friends participated in that, and we ended up winning that tournament for 20K. So we won the first place for the second tournament, which is how I bought my streaming PC, and then I got into streaming.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
From there, and then that's how I got into streaming Survival of the Fittest, and I did that for years and made connections and met Hillbilly and Omni, and that's how I got into official ARK, and yeah, it's been a journey.
Cool. Omni, do a quick intro.
Sometimes I tag along with Icebox to get a couple dubs in SOTF. But that's about my SOTF experience.
Yeah, it's a long time ago with SOTF. But yeah, let's just start. So let's start with ARK 1. It's a lot going on with ARK 1 these days. Especially all the enforcement stuff recently. But let's start with what are you best in worst experiences with ARK? Like, what's the thing that you remember the most as we're like, ARK it's kind of ending and we're coming up to ARK 2? Like, what's the most memorable, or like what's your favorite moments in ARK? Do you guys have any favorite moment, Toast? Something you guys want to
go down the line?
Yeah. Well, I'll start with me.
I don't think ARK is ending. People
you don't think ARK is gonna end?
Nope, not yet.
No.
I think even if when ARK 2 comes out, ARK isn't ending.
I have the same opinion. It depends on how good ARK 2 is. Because all we have right now is speculation on this. Souls combat, base building. You don't know if you're going to jump on ARK 2 and you're going to be locked into 5-man tribes, let's say. And then what happens when you can't have this 400 mega tribe anymore? Probably going to go back and play ARK 1. Who knows? I don't know. I'm just speculating here.
I agree, though. I think most of the people that like ARK 1, that are hardcore ARK 1 players, they're not making ARK 2 for them. They're making ARK 2 for a larger population, the third-person melee combat, bunch of different RPG aspects. Though I like these things, though I'm looking forward to these things. There's going to be dungeons. There's going to be all sorts of stuff. That isn't why we like ARK 1. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Could
uncertainty.
you repeat the question though?
Yeah, no. What are your favorite
your
favorite moments and worst in ARK 1? Like, you have
Right.
anything that you remember if you stop playing once you stop playing ARK? If you stop playing ARK.
One moment that I have a picture in my head was during the Bronto meta, when that was one of the main ways of soaking outside bases. One being on Herb Island on the island, and just seeing 5-10 Brontos on Herb Island pushing into this base with hundreds of turrets before the turret limit, like the single turrets, huge towers. Like, I just remember those days being kind of my favorite. Before heavy turrets were introduced and tech turrets.
I'm with Icebox. I think Legacy was the most fun you could have in ARK before it became this min-max meta of tryhardiness. On Legacy you have these massive open bases all over Island, Ragnarok, and then when Extinction released, it changed the game.
I think I'm with you guys. I think my favorite moments were also during Legacy, and like everything before Extinction DLC was probably my favorite, because we had land bases. We have like, everyone was still trying to figure it out, some new stuff in the game, and then mechs come in and Titans is like, oh, you can't have land bases anymore.
Yep.
Yeah,
I had a blast with Titans, but I think I agree. The reason why everyone is looking back to like the past as their favorite times is the nostalgia and the fact that not everyone knew everything. Now everyone, like, everything's known. There, the meta's a lot more. It is more complicated, but like we were still learning, right? All the dinos that hadn't reached, people still weren't breeding efficiently. So like it's more of a Bob life. When you ask the question, like, what was your like memorable moment? For me, it was the first time we really got like raided, when Salt Team 6 came and tried to raid us, and Black Card was it was my first experience of there potentially being aimbotters, and both sides of the war were attacking my little Bob base on a beach. You know what I mean? Like, that was insane. And I ended up getting caged. I couldn't even defend my own base, because I was the streamer, so of course they caged me when they could, and so I had to like hope that people were there to like, save my base. So it was pretty crazy, you know what I mean? But again, it was because it was way back then, you know what I mean? And I think that nostalgia part is what makes it more like memorable.
Yeah, I think we're gonna all agree with that, and that's one of the things I'm hoping with ARK 2 as well. Like, they just gives back that feeling of just starting over, because like right now you can't really start over because there's nowhere to build, there's nowhere to do anything. So
I think there's a lot of empty servers, and I think Hillbilly Willie, unfortunately, his internet's out. He would have been here, but he's got a 1X tribe that's thriving on, and they just started a couple months ago. They've found themselves a lot of good blueprints, a lot of good dinos. They've got 2 servers, I believe. I think they're maining Gen 2. But they're recruiting. They've got a decent membership base. But they started fresh on 1X not too long ago. And they're doing just fine.
It's true.
So you guys think there's still room for new players to grow then in ARK 1, or you think it's extremely hard for people just to come back to the game?
There has to be interest is the issue, and unfortunately, I don't think you can get away from RMT, or like, you need to catch up is the biggest issue. And in order to do so, to be able to compete against everyone, you've got to be able to get the stuff that everyone else has.
So what are you guys' opinion then in money trading? Since we're talking about starting over. Like you said, sometimes you need to be able to catch up, and in order to catch up, you need to buy some of these breed lines that are, like, have been bred for years in order to compete. So what are your thoughts on RTM right now? Where, like, I think it's a lot of money being made right now with those things. I'm not too familiar with, like, RTM right now in ARK, because I had never bought anything with real money in ARK. So what are you guys thoughts on that? Like, you'll think. Do you think this?
Oh my!
Do you think that's gonna be a thing on ARK 2, or do you think that this is just a thing for now because of the way ARK
It was
works?
a thing on Diablo 2, bro.
Yeah, it's a
I
thing
think-
in any game.
Yeah,
It's a thing
I
in
think
New
it's ju-
World.
it's like we've evolved in gaming like a lot, and RMT is kind of everywhere now. World of Warcraft, you pick any game, right? And
Yep.
half the time, if you don't have the time to play it, you're because you work, you don't have like 12 hours a day to play video games. So you end up either buying gold or buying this or buying something else to catch up, so you can actually play the game at the same level as other people.
Yeah, that's true. Seen that a lot recently on Lost Ark when I was playing Lost Ark and New World. Although New World mitigates that a little bit with their trade station, trade market, where you can just
facilitate.
Yeah, and you just buy gold if you want to, with real money. But there's that. That's just like, it's not more like the way in ARK is where you have to buy specific dinos with real money instead of like just buying a currency. So we might have a currency in ARK too. We'll talk about that in ARK when we get to ARK 2.
What is this rumor of a currency? Where did you hear this?
Just heard about like they want to do more MMO style stuff, but that's just a rumor that I heard. It's not confirmed. So what do you guys well, would any some of the recent ARK stuff, like the Dodo Rex being disabled and them like still Railgun being disabled, what do you guys think about them just disabling certain things, like the Dodo Rex, for example, not being able to transfer
It's not disabled.
No, I mean not disabled. Sorry, you can't.
I can go to
can't
TPG
transfer
main right now and farm wishbones.
Where I
Run
mean,
a
like, you
Dodo
can't
Rex
transfer wishbones right now. What do you guys thought on just those things just not being able to do those
If
things
I'm
like
honest,
it used to be?
I've never seen the Dodo Rex in game. Unofficial. Like, I've
Well,
seen it.
Well, Omni and I can tell you about a lot about that. It's like, it was where you can destroy metal structures with it very quickly, and it's like what, 1,000,000 HP. It just
it's a super
That's
Saiyan
crazy.
Rex.
Super Saiyan Rex.
that fucking breathes fire. You use wishbones, which is an item from the Turkey Day that people would make that fits in a deddy, so you'd see full deddies of them. So infinite amounts of them, and be able to spawn them on enemy bases because of duping, right? Or
Yes.
on enemy servers, and endlessly send in Dodo Rexes until either you give up or the base is wiped, and they destroy structures.
Yeah. Was that a big problem? Is that a big problem with Sixpence Toast? You play. You think the only one of us who plays Sixpence.
It wasn't like last event we did summon a couple of Dodo Rexes, but they had 500 weight, and I think they still do. And we just grappled until they died with the turrets because, as you said, through RMT. This is like on the previous question. Is like you're able to farm dust or automated gacha, farm the dust, sell the dust, buy the ERB, fill your turrets, and then like we don't have a currency, but it comes down to actual cash being the currency because we end up selling one item to buy another item, or to buy VPs, or to buy dinos, or whatever you need. So I mean, at least on smalls, and I'm pretty sure it's the same on one eye, because people don't want to put money into the game, but you kind of have to trade. And this is how we kind of deal with the Dodo Rexes. You just grapple it and let the turret shoot and pray. It doesn't really break much. But you don't see as much duping on smalls as you do on 1x, though.
Huh. What's the thing you see the most on the smalls these days? Is it just embodying and like, I think I saw I streamed with Chucky's the other day when he was showing a Speed Titan, just like beaming everything down on his fob.
Yeah,
Like,
you just speed Titan because so after doing some research into this, it's like it's automation. Like the cheat tames the Titan for you, and then it just moves super fast, and then it targets everybody like in range. So it's there's a lot of cheating in smalls. It's not as bad as before they removed the railgun, right? When the railgun was a thing on smalls, if somebody got above your base or under the mesh, there's 6 people that can spawn, right? Once you're on a 4-minute cooldown, your base is gone.
What do you
There's not
mean they
much you can do.
removed it?
Are we all in agreement that railgun gone good?
Railgun got good, yes.
I
Um,
unfortunately
I'm not in the loop. What happened to the railgun?
it got disabled because of pretty much that. People just embodying with the railguns. You can shoot through the mesh. There's not much you can do,
Yeah,
especially
I'm
on
in
6
agreement
mans.
with that.
Yeah, I unfortunately with the Dodorex and the railgun, I really wish that Dupers and Bud had not written that for us, because I kind of do miss the thrill of having to defend against the Dodorex or fighting with the Dodorex, but because you can dupe those wishbones to oblivion, we can't have nice things, right? Same thing with railgun. I miss shooting with
But
railgun.
the wishbones are in the game.
They are in the game, but you can't transfer caps. That does, which is the problem.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
You could just endlessly sin.
So I know 1X was the general consensus of 1X is everyone. It was kind of like how some people get ready for Christmas.
Yes.
Well, a lot of people on 1X were getting ready for Dodo Rex season. Even on our server, we were moving things around, seeing what would be the Dodo Rex targets. You know what I mean, and preparing in case someone came to Dodo Rex us. But on the other end, we also were scouting, looking for things, that might be, good Dodo Rex target. So it was like, how people get ready for Christmas season, people, and not just, just in general, like you go to Tribe Mad Salt, like everyone was looking forward to, the normal chaos, which is for some reason there's a shit ton of wishbones around. And but now the thing is now, have you heard of anyone use a Dodo Rex? It's there. You can go farm wishbones and use it legitimately, but 1X refuses to play the game normally and is just saying it's basically it's out of the game because we can't transfer
Because we can't
dupe
transfer
caps.
Yeah, it's just 1X is a magical experience. So talk about moving on from that. Do you guys have any favorite art creature? Any favorite item that maybe you would like to see in the sequel, or that just like hey, this is my favorite dino in R1, and kind of gonna miss it. For me,
bring the gotcha to
Gotcha.
ARK 2.
Gotcha was fun when it first came out. It was give you cab
I remember this.
Fabies, wasn't it? When it first came out?
Like super overcapped descendant ones.
Oh god,
That was wild.
Good times. For me is the Shadowmane, because the Shadowmane is so good at everything, and you can build it differently too. Like you can have a melee Shadowmane that can fight a Giga 1-on-1, and most likely Shadowmane will win. And it's a good PvE dino if you want to wake up your babies, and it's just really overall really good support unit in my opinion. It's like when I look at like a lot of the dinos that Wildcat has worked on since 2015 to now 2022, it's like they have like learned how to make some of these dinos much more interesting compared to what it was in 2015, right? And I'm kind of hoping we get some of that, something similar with the Shadowmane, where it has like PvE utility.
You think they're gonna bring like mutated created dinos in ARK 2?
No, I don't think we're gonna get any mutated. Maybe in the DLC, we'll probably get like mutated, like magical, sci-fi creatures. But I don't think we're gonna get like Shadowmanes or like anything that's not a real life dinosaur in R2. I don't think so. What do you guys think? Do you guys think we'll get it like anything that's not a dino on R2? Or like, what's your favorite creature? And then move on to that.
I have a lot. Oh, the first one that popped in mind that I made an emote about it was a Prelovia. I just liked how you can set up a trap effect, I guess, and have someone, you can lure someone towards a location where you have your Prelovia and set up an ambush, and if that stuns them, that you can get a free kill with that.
I have your your breeders, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm setting them. I want to change the male back to blue, so that I can make just blue Perlovias. But since you've been missing, we
Going back
took them over.
to the old days, I miss when trikes were kind of in the meta, where people used to use trikes because they were really good at soaking bullets, and now they don't exist.
Yeah, people just face out some of those OG dinos now. Now it's just like different. Like they're just the Stegos, right? The Stegos racers. If you want to soak.
Yeah,
right?
ARK upgraded did like a TLC on the Stego, but never the
trike.
The trike.
Yeah, never the trikes kind of just disappeared.
Yeah.
Patchy rhinos.
Patchy rhinos? Oh yeah, patchy rhinos were a thing way back in the day too, right?
They were a thing, right? You used to be able to soak bases on them, and now the same thing with the trike. Just forgotten.
I always liked the patchy rhinos too because they've got that AOE that sucks stamina, and it's a huge gas cloud. And if you ran in there and put an AOE and you removed everyone's stam, you know what I mean? Then they can't run, and or Gigas wouldn't be able to run away. They could just sit there and bite, but they were just never good enough to use.
So is
the
there
longest time an Argentavis was my favorite.
Oh.
Just the fact that they were a carry weight, and that they fixed back in the day you had the hardest time picking someone up from an Anki, and they kind of fixed that. So now it's a lot easier to pick up someone riding an Anki, and then you go farming. And then like you said with Shadow Mains, you could. I turned Argentavises to like melee Argents, like over 1,000 melee or more. When you pick someone, this is back in the day though, you can you kill them 2-3 hits and take their whole kit.
You know that one of the only things that can pick a mech rider out is an RG?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
No,
so
that's
and
cool.
a melee Argentavius being able to like pick a mech rider and kill him is actually pretty strong.
Yeah. It's rare you see someone in RG though these days because of so many counters to flyers now.
Yeah, Shadow Main and Nets and everything.
Main,
but a lot of times if they're pushing forward, with mechs, it's usually just a lot of mechs and some gigas. You know what I mean? And if you're lucky and if you could get a mammoth buff RG to go out there and pick mechs, actually could help a lot.
I think the RG is just too slow.
So then maybe Shadow Main buff too.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why the Shadow Main is so good. It's just so many utilities. Great. Love it. So is there any particular like feature or mechanic that you like to see being brought out from ARK 1 to ARK 2? Because ARK 2 is gonna, I'm not sure how many features ARK 2 is gonna remove from ARK 1, because they might just not have, I don't think we might have teleportation, right? I don't think we'll have teleporters. I don't think we'll have tech. I think it's confirmed we won't have tech. So it's like any particular feature mechanic you would like to see in ARK 2. For me, it's gonna be cryopods. I hope we get cryopods in ARK 2, or at least a form of cryopods, something that mimics cryopods. Because I don't want 10 FPS on my base before. I don't know if you guys remember before cryopods how bad it was to be able to just move around your base. It was horrible. You couldn't do anything. But then cryopods came out. Oh shit! I have like 60 FPS suddenly, and then people started pumping grid lines, and now it's like kind of the same what it used to be before cryopods. But yeah, I would love to see cryopods being brought into ARK 2. So you
And,
guys,
I know you're asking us this question, but I kind of want your chat to answer some of these questions also.
yeah,
So
chat is also.
feel
I'm also
free
reading chat.
to,
You guys are
yeah,
welcome to give
you
your input too
guys
on that.
go ahead and answer some of the questions.
Oh, and thank you, Dougie, for that gift and sub to Fifi. Appreciate you. If you guys like this
Appreciate it.
kind of stuff, supporting Mr. Dolphin is one way to keep motivating him to be able to make new episodes. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. But yeah. For me, it was cryopods.
So
I'm pretty sure you
cryopod
guys have some.
feature.
Yeah. Like anything you would like to see in R2.
This was one of the questions like I couldn't figure out.
That's fine.
Could you think of one, Omni? A feature?
The thing is like the reason why I like tech is because it is an excuse to fix a quality of life. The Daddy box, you can call it whatever you want. Fill in the blank. What I want is what I want is the issue that you know um, that players are having. We used to use body bags, right? So they introduced
Oh, that's right.
gas bags, or we had tech legs, or they did like where you could put Ravengers on zip lines. So all of these random things to help manage some of the issues that we were having. I do want to see cryopods too, but it won't be a cryopod, right? Maybe it is a stables, and you put in, you're able to put in 10, 20 dinos per stable or something like that. It can come in 100 different forms, but it'll do the same thing, or a variation of the same thing. So it's more about just keeping that level of quality of life that they've had in ARK 1, so that we can enjoy the game and we don't have to fight the game.
Yeah. I can agree with that. There's a lot of those features that they can just make them a different thing. Like Atlas has something like that where like they call it ship in a bottle now, where you can just like cryo your ship, or they have like a
Oh, they got cryopods in Atlas?
Yeah, they
No
do.
way.
They do.
You can cryo a ship?
You can cryo a chip on Atlas too. So and like they have like a stables where you can put your breed lines, which is something I wish we had in our one, where you can put your breeders in a box and just pop the dinos through a box. So that would save me a lot of FPS. That would be really cool on R2. Yeah. So comparing R to like we all play a lot of other survival games after R during like Art's lifespan, like Conan, whatever other games. Like, what do you guys think like Art got right on, like why is Art one of the most successful survival games out there? Like, what do you guys think got it right compared to like other survival games? Because there's been other survival games that try to mimic or improve into what Ark has done, but not many or none has like been successful. Like, I think the most survival games played these days is just Ark and Rust, right? And Conan, but Conan is more like PvE focus these days than PvP. So like, what do you guys think Ark got right compared to like a lot of these other games?
I still think like at least 70%, maybe 60% of the player base is PvE on Ark. Like the PvP community compared to the PvE community, I feel like is smaller. But I think compared to the other games, I think Ark plays very smoothly, not making fun of the 255 ping on the war servers. Like with no lag, I think it's just the combat. It's very smooth.
I also think like what made Ark and kept it alive in terms of it was the ability to build your base on one server and then transfer to another server to go fight a war. Not
Server
a lot.
transfers.
Yeah, the
Oh,
server transfers. Because the other games you play, you go on your server, right? V Rising, for example. I love the game.
Oh, I just got an ad on your channel.
me
I think
too. You just
chat
reminded me. That is actually how I answered that question. It was server transfers, and that's one of the things I would want on
in
Arc
Ark
2.
2. Exactly. But yeah, I think it's server transfer. It's the ability to build your base in one server and then go fight a war on a different server. This is why you have like ARK is so good for official, because when the servers were closed, it was really bad. You just log in, breed a dino, kill the beach bob, log off.
Yep, I agree. One of the main reasons server transfers brought so much. It brought more history. It brought that unknown fear as well. By the way, we got Emperor Poe and not Freya in the chat. Some badasses coming
Thank
in
you,
with some.
thank you, Freya and Emperor for this.
But I played Myth of Empires with Emperor Poe and Freya, and very similar to Ark, there were server transfers. They were a little different, but it was like region locked. Well, not region locked, but like where in order to go so many grids away, it took literally hours because of like cooldown. So if you wanted to go fight on the other side of the map, we had to plan a 6-hour journey of like transferring over, but we could still go fight them, and it was 6 hours to get back. So a little different than Ark, but there was that history. You know what I mean? Those people are over there, we're over here. They could come attack us at any time, so we need to be ready. We need to be prepared for the things we don't know that may come. And so the fear of the unknown. You're no longer the big dog on the street, right? You're fighting all of the other big dogs. You know what I mean? And it having history. If you lose, you can run, you can escape, live another day. But server transfers were number one on I think what makes ARK have so much more history, and at least for the official community and the PVE community too, because they have that sense of community. They can trade, their red dino for a green dino, for someone they've never met before on another server. So they're still kind of connected, and that connectedness, despite being fractured and living your own story, brings a lot of life to it.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I think server transfers were probably the feature that a lot of devs are adding to this to their games when it comes to like Last Oasis, Middle of Empires. I think even Rust is talking about adding server transfers to their servers. So it does add that sense of community and gives ARK that MMO feeling that a lot of games don't have. And I hope they improve into that. And I'm not sure how much of that they're gonna add into the game. Like I'd love to see them to just do more than just server transfers, things that you can do, like like I would love to see like an auction house or like a global trade station or something like that within with everything being connected. Like improve on server transfers, not just like have the basics of with what we have right now. So
I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
And do you think the breeding is keeping ARK alive too? The whole mutations.
Well, yeah, I mean,
for a small group and for PvE, for PvP, not as much, because you've got everyone RMT in it. You got everyone waiting for someone else to do it, and then getting it with other means. So that loop isn't as. I mean, like as far as like you need to. Some people still raise and imprint your own dinos. It is an active loop, but the actual like breeding mutations of new dinos, there's a small group of people that participate in that.
Thank you, Smooth, for the 2 months. Appreciate it. But yeah, so moving to enforcement, just put the one word enforcement there because enforcement is so broad. What do you guys think about the state of ARK when it comes to like cheating and how Walker enforces the rules in the game right now compared to like in my experience, ARK had a small period of time where you could cheat, dupe, and aimbot, but there was that fear that if you did it, and you will get that wipe very quickly. Like I remember when we used to have Ballard and Genie. I think Genie still works there. There was this fear, like I was quoting my old buddy Jose, this fear of God, where no matter how how things were going in our community, if you were cheating and people reported that, it was a ban very quickly. It was like, I remember I was raiding a Ragnarok server with my old tribe in 3, and they brought an inbotter. Bala showed up immediately as soon as we reported to him, and just within 5 minutes he just said hi. In chat is like deleted the whole tribe, and they were and the tribe that was inbound. They were like, "What? What just happened?" I was like, "Yeah." But nowadays
Far
it's
different
like
than now.
a lot different than now.
They had people inside 364, multiple people aimbotting inside the main tribe for days on end, and no dudes on server. Eventually, some of them got their accounts destroyed or banned potentially. But with the free weekends, the people that are planning on cheating, they're stocked up, so it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like how about is it on 6 minutes? I know you quickly touched on that. Like how fast is like the enforcement get back to you when somebody?
You make a ticket and wait. So I've made, I don't know, let's say 3,000 tickets in a year, give or take.
Let's
Just a
maybe
lot.
spit my drink out. That's a lot.
That's
yeah.
a lot. A lot of tickets.
So on 6 man, what normally happens, right? You're limited to 6. When somebody's cheating in tribe, you just get dev wiped or banned. What they normally do is they bring your 6 and then they bring the cheaters out of tribe, right? So the dev can only ban the cheaters unless the cheater and the tribe attacking are actively like working together to destroy a goal, or to destroy structures, or to loot. Like cheater kills and the other guy goes loot. Because on 6 man it's not that bad. You see a lot of cheaters, but on long fob, they kind of just disappear because it's pointless to cheat. Like, okay, you're gonna spin somebody, and then bubble goes up, and then you really can't.
I'd like you to point out some of the cheats you see.
How so?
Can we point out some things? Like the ones I know or have experienced is just aimbotting, and then seeing a stego or giga run at you 1,000 miles an hour.
Speed Titan.
And yep, that goes in the same category. Speed any dino.
Your base going empowered with an.
I think the Speed Giga has been the funniest for me.
Last week, there was.
No, I think the funniest was the flying chickens.
Oh yes!
Aimbot.
Oh, true. The mesh chickens that broke into.
Yes. The teleporting mesh chickens. Yeah. Yes.
Must have missed that.
Oh, it was great. They figured out a way to, like, back then were like to just mesh and just go inside your base with chicken, just loot everything that was not pin coded. So I remember when that was happening, immediately got an alert on Discord. Pin code literally everything because this chicken's stealing everything from inside the main base. It's like, what? What do you mean? There's like a floating chicken going around stealing everything. I'm like, what? And he could just instant transfer from the chicken. He didn't have to go to a transmitter or anything like that. It was crazy stuff. But the quickest way to fix it for was just do pin code stuff. He couldn't access things that were not pin coded. So.
But when you mentioned enforcement, I do remember the days where people were a lot more scared during the days Dolphin was mentioning. And I feel like they cut back on enforcement a lot.
Yeah, I agree.
I
think active enforcement's there, but I will say that they are still actively, patching the game for one that's, like, oh, they're working on ARK 2, or they're working on this cartoon, they're hanging out with Sir Baldy. The thing that was going around with the Jennies, right? Turn off all Jennies and render. When it became public, it took a little bit for the response, but the response was quick and swift. Shut down transfers, for 16 hours, and fix the issue. And to me, when people say, "Oh, ARK is dead," devs don't care, all of these things. Well, it may have taken them a little bit, right? They do. It is their job, not their life, right? They found out they canceled transfers. They fixed the problem. And that's the best, in my opinion. That's the best that you can expect from a company that has their focus elsewhere.
Yeah, I agree with that. I can agree with that. I do hope R2 that's like they go back to like putting that fear, because the last thing they want is have what happened with Atlas, where they had like little to no enforcement, and and it was just, and I think that one of the things that ruined that game for me, because it was like people spawning whales and like aimbot it and stuff like that. Same thing in Arc, like not nowadays in Arc 1. It just I just don't care anymore. I see someone bringing it in bot. I'm like, dude, come on, man.
I found out at a later date, but on like end of day 1, day 2, Kemby was duping ships full of boxes of mats for more ships. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like,
so that's what they need to avoid with R2. Like they just need to hire a couple. Maybe I'm assuming they'll have the budget. I mean, you have Vin Diesel now, right? So I'm hoping they do improve the budget on enforcement, because the last thing you want when a new game is just drama. That happened on New World. Look at New World when it first came out. Lots of duping, lots of cheating. You lost 90% of your player base, and that was not 1 million players, right? You want to avoid that in R2. So enforcement is very important in that regard. But yeah, that covers, I think, the R1 section. We're gonna move into my favorite topic, is SOTF. So with the announcement during the charity event, they said Jeremy, CEO, and Jad came on the stream, and they announced the Survival of the Fittest, which is pretty much a revival of ARK SOTF that came out in 2016. And that caught a lot of us by surprise. I was not expecting that announcement.
Yep.
I am very excited for it. I am also very worried for it, because I am hoping that game succeeds, because that was my favorite part of ARK. What are you guys' thoughts on the announcement, and what are you expecting about the upcoming SOTF? Like, do you care? Is it like something you're looking forward to? Like, what do you guys think about this? I didn't see it coming.
I didn't see it coming either. As soon as it was announced, I think I was also live. I just had everyone just, hey, did you hear? Because I wasn't watching the thing. I had to actually go YouTube it. I'm excited for it. I know a lot of old familiar names. I think that's one of the questions coming up is, what are you looking forward to it? And it's just seeing a bunch of old familiar names come back to ARK and experiencing Survival of the Fittest, or new names too. They never got to play it. That's
What about you, Toes? You won a couple of SOTF tournaments. So like, what are you looking forward to on this? Are you excited? Are you
super excited, man? It's just so I've been playing a bit on and off the old SOTF, and playing ARK at the same time. And the difference between now and then, in terms of quality of life, inventory management, the dinos itself, the way we fight is so different. And with the addition that they added crossplay, which is, we will see when it actually releases. If they use the new UI we have in ARK, and all these new changes, I think it's going to be really good. It has a lot of potential. We are in the battle royale meta in terms of gaming, where every game has to have a battle royale. So,
but if in that meta, and this is like, I think I'm the minority here, because you guys are all lovers of SOTF, and I always thought it was terrible, because when we look at PUBG, when we look at all of the other battle royales, and you compare SOTF to it, it was trash. in compared to inventory management, in compared to the pacing of the game, and even the end game circle, and so I am going in with like and a hope for you guys, because I know you guys want to love it, you know what I mean, that it's going to be revamped. Also, the fact that it was old as fuck, they didn't even have grapples, right? They didn't have all these things that are in ARK, you know what I mean? So it was so outdated. And not only was it outdated, but when you look at it compared to other battle royales, that's what it's going to be judged up against. That's what it's going to be compared to. And so um, I'm because it's a full revamp. Okay, then let's go back and make it a battle royale in comparison to other battle royales. It can still have ARK flavor, obviously, but it doesn't have to be anything like ARK. The crafting, the getting of dinos or whatever else, right? The world's your oyster, but it will be compared. Is it a good battle? Will other battle royale enjoyers come play the survival of the fittest?
Yeah, I think that's the main issue as to which touching to the next subject, like why SOTF died. In SOTF at the time was one of the first battle royale games that came out, right? And then you had like H1C1, I forgot, and there was like other ones, and then Fortnite came out, and then PUBG came out, and then ARK died because it just couldn't compete. It was not up to date. There was a lot of issues with it, right? It was not very friendly, as the devs have said themselves. It was not very friendly to casual players. In order to play SOTF, you needed to already know the ARK 1 mechanics. So it was, if you never play ARK, it was really hard for you to play SOTF. And on top of that,
it was difficult for
beginners. It was very difficult, yeah.
And even if you knew the ARK basics, it was still difficult for you. Still, even if you knew the basics, I think that's what killed it, and the difficulty of it. And only the few really competitive players really kind of stuck around and try to keep the game alive. But because the game was so competitive, as soon as people waited, and there weren't that many players playing it, there's a few lobbies going, but if you died, you would have to wait another 10-20 minutes to maybe get into another game. And with the amount of competitiveness, new players trying to get into the game, they go in and they just didn't get a chance to really play it because they would die to some really good bow player. So
yeah, SOTF, I don't know. It was a game where if you wanted to get first place, you needed to know where other players are and leave them after you tame your dinos. You would go tame your dinos. You know there's a bob at the beach. Tame the dinos, go kill the player for the XP, and then roll back to mid. So your dinos would be healed, ready to go. And in the lobby system, I think lobby system was really really bad. For a battle royale game with elo, because it allowed you to dodge certain lobbies. It allowed you to play bob lobbies, basically, where you knew everyone was a bob. You just make a bow, go kill everyone, and then the game was over in 15 minutes. Yeah.
I have a question for Omni. What would get you to play it?
I mean, I'll play it regardless, just so I can talk shit on it.
I know you like survival, and you like.
I do enjoy battle royales.
Battle royale games.
The thing that'll take is a full revamp. I want there to be cryopods and fucking drops. I want there to be ammo in drops. I want there to be a reason why I want to chase the person that I see. In other battle royale games, what's considered a good win from a good player? High kills, right? What's considered a good player or a good win in old SOTF? Not dying to the constant death in the final circle,
Events.
hiding in a fucking stone one by one. You know what I mean? And so like that's the pacing of other battle royales is you can hug the circle absolutely, and you can get wins that way. One of my roommates, I never want to play a battle royale with him because he's a sniper that'll hug that fucking circle and scavenge while I'm running in. Team, where's team? You know what I mean? But there's that different style. You know what I mean? And so it needs to be. I don't know. It may be a weird subject of whether or not there should be tech. Um, I think that's something we should talk about, because, in my opinion, survival of the fittest should be up to date with what ARK is. Because for those that don't play ARK, it would be an introduction to the game, and potentially bring more people back to the game. Now, I think tech obviously should be extremely limited, um, whether or not it exists at all. But the concept is that it should be more relevant with the current state of the game instead of this old antiquated version of it.
Yeah. I don't know how I feel about tech therapy in SOTF. I have a lot of issues with what we don't know about the upcoming SOTF. Like, I don't want a lot of the stuff. Like Omni said, I don't want a lot of stuff that are from the old SOTF. Like, the SOTF was very static. Like, you had to go tame, you have to go craft, and once you obtain those things, you have to stay on the same spot all the time. So there was like 20 minutes of crafting and taming, and there was like maybe 5 minutes of actual engagement and fighting other players. So you spend a lot of your time crafting and taming. I don't want that in the new SOTF. I want things to be like very similar to the way it is with like current battle royales, where you just go loot. If you want to involve taming, I want it to be like a lot quicker. Where like I find maybe a taming item in a drop, give it to the dino, instant tame. Let's go. Move on to the next. Keep looting, moving. I want constant movement, like the way it is in current battle royales, with the art twist, obviously, when you have like tames. But I don't want the situation where I would cheese, because that's a lot of my gameplay back in SOTF, where I would just mass dinos and just whistle insta win. That was the thing. Mass dinos, whistle, instantly kill anybody. And I don't want that in SOTF. I want to be able to have an army, but I don't want my dinos to chase someone across the map when I whistle them, right? I want the AI to be a little more not as dumb as it is right now, where I can just, where like if I whistle on a target and the dinos don't see the player in the bush, the dinos lose the aggro immediately. Like I don't want the AI to like get stuck on rocks, right? I want it to be right. And if you're gonna have that, I want them. Hey, Baller, I want them to have roads at least, so I can move my dinos, right? And that it all depends on the map, right? If and I believe we're getting the element, which touches the next subject. What do you guys think about SOTF? I believe they're gonna do SOTF on the island map. I don't think it's gonna be the old island map. I think it's gonna be the current island map, where it has the redwoods and the swamp. Like, what do you guys thought on SOTF being back on the island? Should it be on the island, or should they do their own? Should it have its own map?
I think it should be a brand new one.
Yeah.
I think Dougie, and I'm gonna interrupt here just a second to add this in. Dougie says, "Do you think there should be a way to revive teammates, like in Apex?"
That'd be a really cool feature.
We've thought of that feature. I just don't know how it's gonna work with ARK.
Just downed, right? And you go up and hold E.
Oh yeah. Like you've been downed and being able to revive, like get them back up. That'd be. I'm hoping we'll get that. That'd be a really
or
cool.
implant, right? Like I'm saying, world's your oyster, right? They die, you grab their implant, you go to a near node, and then they
Bring them
fucking
back.
get
They could even make it the way it is with like the being able to play as a dino. You keep those dinos alive, and then go to a station and you sacrifice the dino gets traded for your player, so long as those you have any dino alive, and that player comes back to life. Something like that, right? Like where there's like, yeah, I would love to see a feature where like you can revive your teammates, like in Apex, because that's a really fun part of Apex. Like I would die and just whoever was carrying me would just revive me.
Yeah,
cool.
If they could code anything, then yeah, I wouldn't mind that. I think
The thing is,
the implants, like
that'd be cool.
Somehow, if you're able to loot your teammate's implant and then go to some structure and revive, maybe get one. I know Omni used to play Naraka Blade Point, and when you used to die, you used to spawn as a ghost and have to run to some kind of graveyard to revive yourself, and you only had one of those.
Oh.
Go ahead.
From what I got in the stream, I think you're gonna be able to play as a dino, which I assume is in the old SOTF. If you died within the first 5 minutes of a 1 hour game, that was it. You could go make coffee. It was a 4v4. That was it. 55 minutes, just basically waiting. In the new SOTF, I think they're gonna implement you playing as a dino, in terms of revivability.
Yeah, but
that would.
Yeah, but there's a difference. Like I would love to still be able to revive my teammates somehow, and if I get one more revive, that'd be really cool. And then if that person dies again, then I play as the dino.
I agree.
The playing as a dino is a little weird to me, only because then it's like, oh, I'm a dinosaur. I'm gonna go focus this one fucker. You know what I mean? And so
maybe you have to kill a player to revive. I don't know, man. It's all circumstantial.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot of things they can do with that. But what do you guys think about? Back to my question, the SOTF being back on the island. Like, do you like that, or do you want them just to do a different map? Like, does it even matter?
I think there should just be. Yeah, I don't think it matters.
I want a brand new map.
Yeah, I think I want
a
whole. New.
I want if you're revamping the thing, you're kicking a dead, decayed horse, and you want to make it great again, then it needs to be revamped from the ground up. Island was built as a map to survive in a role playing aspect. You know what I mean? And so maybe they move a couple of dino spawns around or whatever else. But you want to make a battle royale, then you need to make the whole thing, right? The map tells one of the biggest stories.
True.
For that.
Valor says it's got to start the island. It's a classic. I think it's like a lot of veteran players are going to know where a lot of the good spots are. And if you just throw a whole new map, it's going to be... That's the fun part, the learning curve. Learning
exactly
where
and I believe
everything is, and
I believe we still have the desert map that never got released. Actually, I think they still have that. And I believe it's still the only thing that needed to be added was the spawns. So they have a map already made, and apparently this, according to Evil Mr. Frank, who the one that made that map, who works on Wildcard. All they needed was a spawn. So they already have a map. It's just that. To me, it doesn't make sense to go back to that. And to a lot of the points that you mentioned, us veteran players, we're going to dominate that because we already know where Everton is. Now, compared to doing a new map, there's that sense of, like, discovery and, like, you don't know where Everton is, right? And there's a lot more... It can make the gameplay more fair because you don't know... You have to discover things, right? That and on top of that, the island was not made for Battle Royale. Like, it does not make sense to me. Like, you put a Battle Royale game and you made it on a map that was not designed for it. Because then you have to remove water spawns, you have to remove caves, you have to remove a lot of things that are unnecessary. That's a lot more work than just using a map that you already have, right? Maybe they just need to add a hill on the middle of it, because we don't even know how spawning is gonna work. Like, are we gonna descend from a Quetzal, or like we're just gonna fall into the sky in the very center? Like we still don't know that. So hopefully they give us a trailer or like more info about how it's going to work. But yeah, I don't want it to be on the island. That'd be terrible for me.
Most likely it will be though, right? And like
Most likely it will
Valor
be.
said, a few changes, and it no longer looks like it. But I mean, like it really needs to be with the battle royale in mind, and how they want that flow of the game. One of my biggest concerns is the flow of the game. If you run in and I'm off to a corner for 20 minutes again, making gunpowder, then it's going to be another dead game, just with a bunch of veterans, a lot of dudes with nostalgia that want it to be good, but you're not going to have new players coming to check it out. Not for long, at least.
Yeah, yeah. So in regard to that, what do you guys think about like what features would you like to see in the new SOTF? Like, is there anything from any other, like we mentioned, like the Epic's Revival? Is there any other feature from any other battle royale game that you would like to see in SOTF? Like, for example, for me, I would like to see a much more dynamic form of building. Not like, kind of like the way Fortnite is, but not like Fortnite, where I could just instantly build a tower. Like, I would love to be able to place, like, instantly place a wall, or like a curved wall where I can just like snipe from that, right? If I'm getting sniped from all directions, I just put that down, put like a mini fob, 2x2, and just being able to, especially if you're like doing especially if you don't have dinos, or like you're not going for like a heavy dino army, I will still have the option to be able to like have like a sniper tower, or like being able to like instantly build something that protects me from other snipers, or maybe dinos rushing me, and still be able to destroy that by shooting it or just biting it with a dino. I would love to see something like that, kind of like the way Fortnite does it, but not.
So
exactly.
I mean, like finding thatch structures
Yeah, because
in drops.
yeah, so it still makes it viable to like just grab thatch, grab wood, grab stone, and just instantly put something down, just to like be able to like snipe and give myself some cover. I would love to see something like that.
If there could be like a structure limit,
right? Because I don't want to. Yeah, because I don't want them to like. I don't want to be able to be like a whole fortress either. There needs to be some limitations to that, obviously.
Like a structure limit that's placed, and so you said a feature.
Yeah, like is there anything from any other battle royale game that you would like to see in?
Yeah,
the new
my
SOTF?
brain went through like so many different battle royales because I've played a lot of them.
What was the question?
What game does it right though?
Yeah. So what is like a feature mechanic you would like to see from other battle royale games into the new SOTF? Like we talk about the Apex Revival, for example. Is there anything from any other battle royale games that we'd like to see?
I loved the chicken in in what was it, Realm Royale, but also the tiering up of stuff as well, like in the older version of it, where like you were rewarded for killing people by getting a currency, but you then still had to go risk being in a place where people knew you were, to be able to get that next tier, to get that stuff. So what it created were hubs of activity. You could see from afar, oh, there's someone over here. I can go in this direction and do that. So things like that, doesn't have to be upgrades in that, but the idea that like to draw people mid game to these locations so that there's fights. Oh, there's going to be something over here. You know what I mean? Oh, we're gonna get some action, and so if you don't want to, like you're half health, you just lost some stuff, you're gonna stay away from that because there's gonna be action over there mid game.
Yeah, one of the features. Someone in chat, Sepsix95 said, "What about the like 1v1 like they do in COD, for example, where you can just like fight each other, like you die and then you do a 1v1, yeah, and whoever wins that goes back into the match, right? I love to see something like that, maybe.
True.
Especially when like you die very early in the game. I would love to be able to just have a chance to come back, right? If I have to fight someone, that'd be cool for me. Yeah. So yeah. So what are you guys' thoughts on some of the main features we're gonna have in the new SOTF, which is RTS mode in playing as a dino? You guys have thoughts on it? Have you even
That's the
messed
first
around
time
with
hearing
RTS
about
mode?
it. I haven't even heard about it.
I'm not familiar.
So no, I'm
I
not.
So
know what
RTS
it
mode.
is.
So RTS mode is pretty much you like the exomech in ARK Omni, where you go into this god view and plays exactly like a real-time strategy game, like StarCraft, Age of Empires. You control your dinos. You're able to have some basic features right now in its current form, where you can just add a group, add dinos to a group, and you can right click into a target for them to attack. And you can control each unit from God mode, and just micromanagement that way. It's exactly like an RTS game.
So I'm saying that's going to be a feature.
So that's gonna be a feature. But you'll be able to, during the match in SOTF, you'll be able to go into RTS mode and control your dinos. And then if you die, you'll be able to play as a dino. And I think you still be able to go into RTS mode as a
So
dino.
they're going far more focused on the dinosaur player
Yes.
gameplay.
So
It sounds kind of cool, but I don't know if that's what the players want.
yeah. Do you have any thoughts on that? So have you guys ever played any RTS?
I
Yeah,
haven't
but
played
that's very different.
RTS, but if it's the same RTS from the exomech in SOTF, I could see it being very fun. I mean, let's say you die, you use your respawn if it's there. At least you're still helping your team by controlling the dinos, moving them around, or clicking attack this target, calling them back. Um, less
Yeah, that would be
micromanagement.
actually kind of fun.
Yeah.
It would be. Go ahead.
No, I play RTS inside West 13. I think I have the most experience when it comes to RTS here in the group. Like I play StarCraft for like since I was 13.
Is that a challenge?
Kind of is. Well, so like I play StarCraft and then StarCraft 2. I even play
Brood War,
Brood War. Yeah, I played
all the way back in the day.
all the way back to
Yeah,
StarCraft 2. I even play in a lot of online tournaments. I got to play against some of the best American players at the time, and I played against a few Koreans. I even met what's his name, Mike Mohammed, the used to be CEO of Blizzard when we used to do MLG tournaments in New York. Got to see him, Total Biscuit, who used to own a team back then. I met a fruit dealer who won the first StarCraft 2 tournament way back in the day. So I had like involvement in the ARK scene. I mean, StarCraft scene. And my thing that worries me about RTS mode is how undeveloped it is. Like, from what I remember, RTS mode was added as a last-minute feature by Jeremy. So it lacks a lot of the basic mechanics that makes an RTS great, which is being able to.
I feel like it's just clunky. I'm gonna be honest.
It's very clunky right now.
Messed
So, like, for example,
on exomech.
Yeah, for example, right now
so
you
clunky.
cannot queue up movement commands. Like I can in an RTS I can
And the range sucks too.
Yeah, in the range and how far you can control your dinos. Like if you're gonna do RTS mode, I want to be able to control my dinos all the way across the map, not how limited it is right now. I want to be able to add 30 commands with shift, move, then add an attack command.
I don't know if we're gonna get that far, but like I wanted to do like AI lightning wyverns on regular official, and it's impossible just because you can't go up high enough. You know what I mean? I was like, oh man, I'm gonna fucking sit in the bubble, RTS mode, a bunch of lightning wyverns, and just dominate. You know what I mean? And then I go try, and I'm like, I can't even see anything. You know, because it's so limited.
It's very limited. That and you can't. There's missing like some commands like hold position commands, right? Like in an RTS, you can just issue a move command and issue a move command to go back. In ARK, when you issue a command for a dino to go back, it turns really slow for an RTS mode. Like an RTS, turning just instant, right? In RTS ARK, it's like it takes forever for the dino to turn because it wasn't designed for an RTS mode. So like that was gonna be an issue. That's gonna be one of my main issues when it comes to RTS mode in SOTF. Because if I'm trying to micromanage, if I'm trying to issue different commands very quickly, I want to be able to tell my Rex to attack. It's taking too much damage, send it back. But because how the collision box is with dinosaurs, they get stuck on each other. So if I issue a Rex to command is in the middle of the fight, that Rex is gonna get stuck, and it's not gonna go back. So that's my main worry, like collision boxes in turning. Like I want to see them to add a faster turning radius, especially if you're gonna micromanage the units, because right now it's not there. Like if you try to do that, I tried to do an official. my Rexes get stuck all the time. It's not fun.
Going back to a feature, one feature that we didn't have back then was a map.
Oh, like a mini map?
Other battle royales,
yeah,
you can actually open a map and see a circle and see where, where safe zone is. And one thing about Naraka Blade Point I like is every round of circles, or when they shrink, is a point of location that has a drop. And so kind of want them to add that feature. We open the map and you can see where the safe zone is, and then there's random spots where it can close. It's not always like in the middle. Or what's your thought on that, Dolphin? Do you want random end zones, or do you always want the same middle?
No, I would like the match to end in a different spot all the time, because that adds replayability, right? If you have the game on the same spot the way SOTF used to be, it's boring. Because I know where everything is, I know exactly where to go. It kind of makes the same meta. When you have like the map force you to go to different locations and you're gonna end at a different location, that allows me to get maybe different teams, and allows me to get like different weapons, and allows me to like play differently every time compared to the way it was now. Like the way most modern battle royales are. I want to see that. And that, and like what you mentioned, which I thought about, forgot, is I want a better mini map. Right now it's like you just open up your map and you see, and it's like very, very basic, right?
Yeah.
And I want to be able to ping in the map to my teammates. Hey, this is where we can go. I want to ping them in game, right? We don't have that, and I hope we do get a better map in the new SOTF. I'm not sure we will. Like that's my main worry. What about you, Dos? What do you think?
I love the idea of a new map, maybe even a mini map, even though it's not like on ARK.
Other games usually add a compass at the top, so
True.
you can actually call out, north or 140.
Yeah, because in SOTF our callouts were Volcano Ramp, Bronto Ramp, East, and West Ramp.
Yeah, and because of that, a lot of us had different names. So that I remember you guys would say that. I'm like, wait, I have a different name for that. What does that mean?
Yeah, that's true. Or when you're chasing someone, where'd they go? And you'd be like, they went this way, and then that doesn't really help in comms, where you can say they went, 130, and there's a compass at the top, or they went north, and you can just look north instead of having to memorize, oh, north is volcano side, and having to look that direction. So yeah, like a compass somewhere.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember we had specific callouts for each location, like Cold Cliff, Bob Beach, Black Beach. It would be nice, I guess, with the
also other games.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, Omni left during that discussion, but I was mentioning, like, since we have these callouts, but what if you just open the map and actually give names to that location?
True, that's what
just give it a name. Other maps, other battle royales, you open your map and each point has a name. A town.
You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You know what I mean? And if you want it to be successful, it's going to take a lot of those features that we talked about from other games, and they will be standard. And if it's lacking those things, then it won't be as popular, right?
Yep.
Because we're going to be like, well, they redid the whole thing, but they ignored this part, right? Or they ignored this part. they don't want to be a good battle royale because they ignored all of these things, making it more difficult for the players to enjoy themselves.
Yeah, the feature I mentioned when you stepped away was a compass. So I think you remember there being a compass possibly in Realm Royale where I can call out north or
Yep.
west, and you just look up and see where north is, or 110.
Very, very common, right? In a lot of battle royales. 350, we got 2 people going east,
Yeah.
or I got someone over the ridge at 75. So we're
Yep.
all trying to figure out where we're at so that we can be on point at that moment. You know what I mean? It really depends on how they want the flow of the game. If they want to go, are we role playing dinosaurs or are we playing a battle royale? So it really, really depends on their vision. And I'm open to a different vision, right? It can be its own thing. It can be unique, but it still has to hit those marks of the flow of the game, level of enjoyment, and it has to be an easy entry, right? But a high skill cap.
Yeah,
right.
I love to see that. And like you say, yeah, like a lot of those basic features that already exist in many battle royale games. I'm expecting those in the new SOTF. If you don't have those, people are gonna eat you up. They're gonna chew you up for not having them because it's expected now. So you can't. It's fine if you want to add RTS mode. It's fine if you want to add Primal Survival Play as a Dino, but you need to give me those, like you guys said, those basic features that exist now. Otherwise, your game is not gonna be probably it's not gonna be successful. I think the last part on playing as a Dino. Do you guys care for it? It's like just nice to have, I guess. I don't see how that's gonna change anything.
Is that the last topic for Survival?
No. The last topic is Survival League. What do you guys think about? Would you like to see a form of Survival League in the new SOTF? Which was, for those who don't know, Survival League was a monthly tournament that you had to qualify, and in order to qualify, you had to farm points.
So every 3 months, then I wanted a quarterly.
Yeah. So like, it was very rough if you had a job to be able to. I remember I was working. I had an 8-hour job, and I would come back, immediately play for another 8 hours, sleep, repeat, try to catch up to Toast and Points, try to catch up to Icebox because they had more time than me, or all the people had more time than me, so I couldn't catch up to a lot of plays, and I didn't get to qualify to many tournaments. There was a few that I was down 5 points because I just did not have the time to play another 2 hours to qualify. So what do you got? Like, what about you, Toast? You play Survival League a lot. Like, would you like to see a different form of Survival League?
I actually quit my job to play Survival League. Because,
really? Huh.
Yeah, because I whatever I won within top 10, if I won top 10, I would make more than working 2 months here. Back when it was 2015, full time. So, like when I got 5th place, the first Survival League where you only had to place on the leaderboard. There was no tournament. Yeah. I used that money to buy a computer, and then on the second Survival League, I got 1st place in V2, and then 7th in FFA, and then I was basically good enough just from Survival League for the next year or so. So I just played Survival League.
Wow! So you went full esports, huh?
I mean, if I could afford it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, why not?
But would you like to see it?
It was hard. I don't know. I'd prefer a qualifying server.
Yeah, I would. I'd actually prefer a qualifying server. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Because I would like to see something more like LCS, more like the way DreamHack has it, like other esports organizations, where like I think it's quarterly, every 3 months or something like that, which then allows community tournaments. Because you couldn't do community tournaments during Survival League because you had to play Survival League. You had no time to do other things. So.
Yep.
Yeah, I would love to see a more better version of that. Because I don't think we want to do.
But if it were to exist, I'd like it to be announced that it'll come out, but in like a month or two. So it comes out and say, hey, we're planning on doing this league in a month. So people can then prepare to be, to participate. So instead of, but letting it know that it will exist, will also drum up that hype of it not being there. You know what I mean? People will play to get good to be able to participate in it.
Yeah, that'd be
But there's
that'd
still
be
a
a
lot
lot
of
better.
there's a few things I want to mention about survival fittest. Like Justice said, qualifying or ranking. I think they should add a ranking system with rewards, and those rewards can be cosmetic for survival of the fittest. But a cool thing would be a reward.
You talking about like a battle pass?
No, not a battle pass. Like
Skins?
like seasons, seasons. For example, season 1. If you're top the ranking system, if you're top 100, you would get a cosmetic on your account for that battle royale. But what if they added a cosmetic that you could only get in this new revamped survival of the fittest? If you're top 10, you would get a cosmetic that you can transfer over to official ARK 1, like a cosmetic that
I love that idea. They did implement
they
this
used to do that. They never did it.
No, okay. It's implemented in SOTF, the oldest OTF, where we have 200 wins.
It doesn't work.
It didn't work though. It
Yeah,
didn't
yeah,
work.
yeah.
I think I had the 200 wins and
I grinded
never
for
got to
that
use my
200
Bionic
wins.
Giga. I never got to use my Bionic Giga.
Same. Biggest
And
disappointment.
It was so disappointing.
Yep.
But that'd be really cool.
So, yeah, Omni in Survival of the Fittest, they had a reward where if you had 200 wins in any mode, they would give you would unlock the Giga skin, the Bionic one.
Yeah,
and that was the
I've
only
seen
way to
it
get
on.
it.
I think you can get it on Xbox, but
Yeah.
I think that's cool, absolutely, because it gives. Look, you three all grinded for it to use something you never got to use, but that means people are willing to play, right? You're in there doing it, and the one issue that I have with it is a new cosmetic also means more development, right? And I'm down for it, like every season, if we're calling every season 3 months, or whatever, and the top 200, or the top, I don't know if it should be number for like the different tiers, but if you get so many points, you're going to unlock these rewards, and then the top so many get the specialty rewards that they can use in the future games, and also bring over to 1x, because we want that bleed over from SOTF back to official ARK.
Well, what are some skins that people use on official ARK? Like even in PvP?
Some of the holiday skins, like
Yeah,
like
the dino skin is my favorite. Inflatable dino skin.
I use a Bonnie custom sometimes.
So, for example, like that inflatable T-Rex skin, what if that was a reward? Something pretty cool like that you can only get in.
Well, I like that to be available for like not just I think I would like something more like Battle Pass, where like more people have access to those stuff if not to the top 10 players, right?
Right. I'm just saying that's just the idea, and you can add a battle pass.
I would love to see like,
or when your first survival of the fittest game, and you get an umbrella, like on Fortnite, when you win your first Fortnite game, you unlock an umbrella skin.
Yeah,
so you can unlock something simple.
But their Fortnite is far more like geared to like getting money, like monetarily. So you got to throw some bones. While I don't see them monetizing SOTF as much, so that means even more limited cosmetics.
Well, that touch on a subject I didn't add here. But what do you guys think about? Because there's some contradiction on what they announced. They said that they want ARK SOTF to be available to as many people as possible that have never played ARK. But at the same time, the following sentence he said is that we are gonna release the prototype to people that only own ARK. So There's a contradiction there. How do you want the game to be available to everyone that doesn't play ARK, but you're only gonna make the game available to only people that play ARK?
He was being cryptic, saying that they're rebuilding it for ARK 2, and they're testing it on the ARK 1 player base.
Yeah, that could be it. I mean, would you like it to be free to play though? Like, let's say prototype is successful.
Yes, and it's going to
month.
be free to play, 100%. SOTF was free to play. This one will be free to play, and it's just another way to get focus on ARK 2, which I have no issue with.
Yeah.
So in the last part then, do you guys think we'll get SOTF in ARK 2?
And the answer is yes.
No.
In that statement,
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
You want to put money on it? What are we betting?
I think they're gonna add a battle royale to ARK 2.
This SOTF revamp is the precursor, and if that statement holds true, it is a precursor test to bringing SOTF to ARK 2.
The thing is, we don't know enough about ARK 2.
I think ARK 2 is going to be a completely different game.
We have this Souls combat, talent trees, which doesn't
ARK
go
2
with
is the
any-
next subject. We'll get there.
Yeah.
We'll get to
Yeah.
our thoughts of it.
Yeah. I mean, I would love to see, regardless of how the gameplay is on ARK 2, I would love to see a SOTF. Because I never thought we would get SOTF again on ARK 1. So I was like, okay, yeah, maybe they'll add it for ARK 2. That'd be really cool. Especially to promote the game, because that's what they did with ARK 1. Yeah, I mean, I'd love to see it. It all depends on how ARK 2 plays, right? There's that.
Yeah, ARK 2 is still legend.
That's the thing.
Yeah, that's if ARK 2 becomes a result, that is. So yeah, moving on to ARK 2 now. What are you guys' thoughts on the Souls combat? There was a lot of we know a lot more than we did a couple months ago. We're getting Souls combat, or we're getting world events, we're getting a bunch of new dinos. It's gonna be on Unreal 5 engine. Like, what are your first thoughts on the Souls-like combat from the little bit we know? If any of you play like Elden Ring or Dark Souls.
So going through Wildcard, you've had Souls combat on Atlas. I think that's what they mean. Which is you get stun locked into animations when you're doing your mace attacks. And the Atlas melee combat wasn't that good. Neither was the range combat. So
I don't want to look it up. Atlas PvP.
Oh.
Atlas melee PvP.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
It was bad.
pretty bad.
It is really
And
bad.
it was Souls combat, right? That classifies as Souls combat.
No, that's not.
No,
Souls
it wasn't
combat.
Souls combat. It was more
Souls
like
combat is dodge rolling iframes,
Yeah.
stamina management.
Okay, which is what you had in Atlas.
I'm just worried. I'm so scared of her.
Was there dodge rolling in Atlas?
there was sidestep. You can sidestep.
sidestepping.
Yeah.
Oh,
For the
really?
attacks.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I mean,
then-
I don't know if you'd still call that Souls like, but I get
wasn't.
in
Yeah.
the base sense. Were there iframes in the sidestep?
No, I don't think there
I
were.
don't think no.
No, don't know. The game died very quickly for me to mess around with the Souls-like combat. I thought honestly they were gonna go more like Last Oasis or like Bangalore, where it was like more directional combat. Since like Mid of Empires has some Snell games in place, which I think is still a lot of stuff that were gonna be on R2. Are gonna be on R2. So that's my only theory on that. I play Elden Ring and Dark Souls. I skipped Dark Souls 2. I played Dark Souls 3. I'm
Dark Souls 2
excited.
was amazing.
You know what? It was an okay game. Just was very very messy for me. But I don't know. I mean, like Dark Souls is like there's no dinosaurs in Dark Souls. So how are you gonna add a Souls like if it's exactly like Dark Souls, if it's exactly like Elden Ring? How is that gonna work with dinos? Because are dinos? Am I gonna be able to sidestep dodge a dino? Am I gonna be able to iframe a T-Rex and be able to like Souls-like combat a T-Rex? Like, is the T-Rex gonna be dumb? Like, are they gonna make the theoretical AI smarter to be compatible with Souls-like combat, right? Because there's a lot more. You can't just make the PvP player versus player Souls-like, but the Dino is just like R1 Dino, right?
I think Ludwig has probably the right idea. That third-person Conan-style combat, hopefully far more
it's
refined.
going to look like that. That's what I'm picturing.
Where you
in my
can
head.
take on the small dinos, right? And things like this, but you start getting to the bigger boys, and it's a dinosaur game. You're not gonna be dodge rolling a fucking Giga, you know what I mean? But you might be able to, with the right build, be able to have some potential, counters or some utility, right? Based on the items that they add and different things, there might be some flavor there. But there's going to be the ground combat. We'll see how much range they bring in. Element is still going to be in Arc 2. They talk about it trying to make it more where it's like this far off thing that's not necessarily good, potentially evil, but it still will exist. How that'll play into the game. They talk about what they say in the thing. They called a dungeon a different name. But there's going to be dungeons in the game.
World events to say like there's going to be
No,
stuff happening.
There will be, hopefully. I love world events, but they called them dens, because there's going to be this new AI humanoid race that we fight, and we're gonna be going into these dens, and in the talk between the two like lead devs, they talked about not being able to cheese as much as we did in Arc 1, and we're gonna have to actually fight them, which I laughed at because of course we're gonna fucking cheese them. They can't foresee how we're gonna do it.
Yeah.
But actually, so they're really focusing on that style of play. It's going to be hopefully more group oriented, right? Where we're able to there's a reason to go in with multiple people, and because of the level of difficulty. But that whether or not we can bring dinosaurs in there is far different. So I think there's going to be two modes of play, where the ground combat, and then there's going to be, the dino combat. And if they bring RTS into Arc 2, right, then we may have this large scale dino combat wars, which could be very cool.
Yeah, I forgot about the dance system you mentioned. I would love to see with that world raids. I'm not sure if they announced that kind of feature, because that's one of the things actually the Ragnarok devs wanted to implement to the Ragnarok map. They wanted to add caves that would work as WoW world raids, where you can get maybe 70 people. The way it works in the Ascension Cave, kind of like you could say, in my opinion, the Ascension Cave is like a world raid, right? Where you go to this cave and fight a mini boss like a Giga, and then you make it all the way and fight a boss, get a reward. That's it. I would love to see something like that, where like you can just do dungeons with like small group of people, or like a world raid with a large group of people, and just make your way to a mini bosses, number of like dinos or whatever, and then fight a boss at the end. Maybe add variations with that, like new world dash with mutations, because that would allow replayability, especially for the PvE crowd that they want to be able to like grind and like replay certain aspects of the game that you can once you like move on into the into the tech tree. So I don't know. I would love to see something like that, in my opinion.
You ever play Elden Ring, Omni?
Oh yeah. I use the big hammer you get off of the first sun dude.
I could never beat that sun dude. That sun is so hard.
But I've always, in all of the Dark Souls, I always played like a lightning bolt wielder dude. I did like a playthrough of Dark Souls 1 where I killed every boss with lightning bolts. I think I did with Dark Souls 2 too. Like only lightning bolts.
Like a target locking system, I think.
I expect there could be. There's a target locking in what's
in Elden Ring.
In Elden Ring, but also in Conan. right?
And you recently
Yes.
played Conan, right? Omni?
Yep.
You played it. You were on the Conan phase for, I'd say, a couple weeks.
Yeah, just to
And
check
even
out
Grizz was
the
joining
magic.
you. And if ARK 2 was similar to Conan in how it ran, I guess, the third person view, the combat. In Conan, you could tame something? Could you tame a creature?
Now you
Conan
can.
had like knocking out things, and all the animals you just picked up. It was a really shitty system. You found a baby, you picked it up, weighed 50 pounds, you brought it home and like raised it. So there was no system, but the whole thing was going and enslaving people, knock them out and drag them home.
What about the combat? Did you enjoy the combat in like Elden Ring?
I know Dougie enjoyed Conan. It was it wasn't completely terrible, but the animations of the attacks made it very limiting because like when you go into like end game PvP, you know, like half of the weapons were inviable. I think they're going to do far better in like we refer to Conan, but you have to remember we're playing in Unreal Engine 5.1. We're not playing Conan. You know what I mean?
Right.
We're getting top tier Unreal Engine for
Are
ARK
there
2.
any other games like that right now that are out?
When
That
it
are
comes to that are
That
survival.
are running that? No, just running that engine, and maybe comes in. Yeah, that is survival.
I don't think there is it yet. I think ARK is gonna be the first one on Unreal Engine 5. That's survival. Um, but when it comes to
Ashes
melee,
of Creation, right?
well,
If
that's
you
not
look
out
at
yet.
no, none of it's out, right? Because they're working on it. A lot of games are working on it. Nightingale's coming up. Again, they delayed it so that they could go into Unreal Engine 5. So a lot of games have even been delayed so that they can make that transition to the new engine.
Yeah, I mean the only other melee combat game that I played as survival was like Last Wish and Bit of Empires, but those were fun, but they had their issues and then they die very quickly. A lot of these survival games just die very quickly because of that. Because of I don't know, they just didn't have enough content when it comes to those, which doesn't touch on this next subject. What are your hopes and concerns, or fears when it comes to like how PvP is going to work in R2? Like, do you expect it to be exactly like R1, where there's no rules, offline, like no offline raid timers, like most modern games? Like, do you want something like Last Oasis, Atlas, because New World, or do you just want it to be exactly like R1 when it comes to PvP?
I want it like fucking what's that space game that no one plays?
Star Citizen?
No, before that, the big space game companies.
The big one. I
Uh,
know what you're talking about. Can't think
no,
of it.
no. How did that work?
Low sec, high sec.
Okay.
Just in No
Low
Man's Sky.
security, high Eve Online. Yeah, okay,
Eve
Eve Online.
Eve
Yeah,
Online,
that's
okay.
So
it.
you've got low security areas, which is where the big boys play, and then you've got high security areas where all the plebs play, or the farmers, the miners and things like that. So they have the ability to be able to play the game, participate in the economy, um, but if you want the good shit, you want the fights, you want to go do the things, you got to go into low sec, which is there isn't a bunch of AI things that are going to, to kill you. It's the Wild West. And the reason I want something like that is you get an issue where you can get full wiped, right? You can lose everything, and then you want to quit the game. But if you've got some stuff in a low security or a high security area, you're not fully wiped. So you mentally be like, oh well, we lost everything, so let's pick up where we left off with what we have left. You know what I mean? So the player based retention is a really big topic for me, from seeing what it is in ARC 1. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Thoughts. Toast. Do you have any thoughts on how do you wanna how the PP wants to would like to work in R2?
As long as it's not Atlas, I mean, I'm very happy. It's wildcard land.
I have my concern, which
I
is
have
bases.
Good.
bases.
Yeah, like, what's your thought on how a base defense is gonna look with no tech?
Well, I mean, depends on how, because like other, excuse me, other like survival games like Last Oasis didn't have like turrets, right? It's like more like you're out of respawns, and that was it. You were wiped.
You put shit up in the cloud, bro. What do you mean?
Yeah.
You don't need turrets.
Right.
Everything just
That's true.
existed in the sky.
Exactly. I personally would like to see a more complex, kind of like what Omni says. Would like, I think what you mentioned is like those having like kind of like safe zones, right? I think I would like to see something where it's like, if you're gonna have transfers, you're gonna have this big open world. There needs to be, unfortunately, because a lot of hardcore players don't agree with this. Unfortunately, you have to have raid timers, in my opinion, where like you can just raid people within certain time zones, which then allows you to play with smaller groups. Because nowadays, when you play ARK 1, you need to be in a bigger group with people that probably never even met. Like, there's a lot of people in my tribe that I don't know who they are. I know they play when I'm sleeping. I don't know who they are, but we need them, right? Because we don't have raid timers. So I would like a system where it's like, hey, I can just be my like Atlas added that later on, but we're just like this 8 hours of peace, this 8 hours or following hours of like PvP, and then if I want to fully raise someone, I would like to maybe buy the war declaration system. Not exactly like the way Atlas is, because that didn't work out so well. Like what's the best way I can describe it? Like I would like to be connected to like maybe a currency where like you have like say like be able to control parts of the map, parts of like the whole server. Like if you have a big map, right, where each map is a server, be able to control that, but not being able to tax resources to people. So that way, if I do PvP, I obtain maybe a specific currency, which then allows me to buy cosmetics or like or being able to buy like in-game items via a trade station, which I would like them to add a trade station, and then being able to buy like a war declaration zone. I don't want it to have a system where I can fully wipe someone. I want a system where like Omni says, if you go into the PvP zone and you get wiped, you go back to where you left off in the safer zone, and then come back from there, and like being able to upload all my stuff in the cloud the way Atlas does it, where I can just upload my whole base in the cloud and just play when I'm available, right? I could just come back 3 weeks from now and I still have my base. Don't have to worry about that.
Have you ever played Fallout 76?
No,
No.
How does that work?
So when you spawn, okay, it's just when you spawn in, your base downloads. Like it's a prefab. You build your little base the way you want it, and then when it saves the entire structure. And then when you log off, your base goes into upload kind of with you. And then when you log in, it downloads on a new server with different people. And if it's already occupied, you could just place it somewhere else. Which is an interesting concept, even though the game is not that good. For the Fallout series, it's still a really good concept on how they fixed cloud saving and cloud saving your base like that. Because you just launch the game, you go play your 4 hours, your base downloads with you, and then you log off, your base goes into upload. So yeah. It could be good for ARK 2. I mean, it's not going to be there. Like, no way.
Well, Omni, what are your thoughts on that? Like, would you like to see being able to upload your stuff on the cloud, like your whole base, everything?
The whole base, no, not at all. It ruined. It's one of the things that ruined Last Oasis. I do like the idea of an upload. I would like to see if we take ARK 1 upload, double it give me 100 slots, and let it last 3 days. Um, because there are times where you do lose your base. Again, it comes back for me for attention, player retention, and also the ability. Like we go on these wars after 16 hours of battle last night. I was tired. I went and chilled with the roommates. I simmed back in. I could have gone live to PvP more, but I had 6 hours left on my upload, and I had a bunch of things in my creature tab. So I just transferred off and pulled everything out of my upload. If I knew that I had it up there for another 36 hours, right, then I wouldn't have to have been worried about whether I'm going to lose a bunch of shit. And if you were just recently wiped, that takes an emotional toll. That takes like some reorganizing, and things like this. So I would like to see it be more than 24 hours. And I'd like it to be a little bit bigger, because uh, at least with what we're dealing in the face of Arc 1, and cap servers and stuff, I can't go back and get more shit. But I do like that it's somewhat limited, right? Because then it does require those logistics. But everything, absolutely not.
When it comes to, would you like to see would you guys like to see more right now you have to sim, but in games like Last Oasis and other games you can a queue. Was there like a queue? There was like a queue to join to join a cap server. Like, would you like to see more like
Queues are terrible.
is there
Imagine you get you know TPG with all of their 900 bobs, and the good players join the server,
Mhm.
and then a bunch of people join right afterwards. The defenders find out 2 minutes later that their server's capped, but there's 500 people in queue. They have no chance at all of defending their base unless you then implement something different, which is a defender's whitelist, which they did do. They attempted to implement in Last Oasis,
They
but
added
very
it,
limited.
but it never got used because the population left.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
I
like
do like
I
the
think
idea of a
reserve slots, right?
defender.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do like the idea of a defender whitelist, um, because of the tens of thousands of hours that you put in. Um, but it's an implementation. How things are implemented and how they're used that really changes it.
See,
Yeah. Go ahead.
I just dislike this system where you have to these slot cap servers and you have to like get everybody to go sim. Like the entirety like of the simming system isn't good for any game. Like you should be able to go on a raid, right? What they needed to do was lower the tribe limits, right? Make it 25 versus 25 or 30 versus 30 or or let's say 50 versus 50, right? So everybody could join the fight without you want to log in, go fight.
Well,
Instead of having
we had that in Conquest, and the people will still make alliances. Like, I don't think you can stop anyone from making a mega alliance because you still people will still make alliances and then cap your server. I do like the idea of being able to, like, if I take control of the map and I buy maybe like a control zone, I control this map. I am the alpha of the server. Being able
Did
to like
you I see Valor mentioned something about taking it off map. Are you familiar with Myth of Empires and what they did, Valor?
like the instance 50-50 like New World does it.
The instance battles, yes.
Yes,
Now
so
it had real world implication on the main maps, and you could whether you won or not, you could still go wipe the fuckers. You know what I mean? If you could go wipe them after they signed up, so that they couldn't participate in the instance battles properly, right? So there's still a lot of flavor in it. But those instance battles, I think what Valor's kind of referring to, and they were a lot of fun. They brought
oh
so
yeah.
much variety, because throughout the week you had to prepare for the instance battles as well as raids, right? And in some smaller groups may not go on raids, but they wanted to do good on their instance battles. And so I actually really loved that.
I love that mechanic in New World because it was just 50-50, even tribes, even companies just duking it out, and then there were real implications for that. Yeah, I mean, I would love the idea of like being able to buy slots as a defender if I am the alpha of a server, and also be able to like do wars. And if I want to fully wipe someone, I do like the idea of like if I win a certain amount of wars, I get this certain currency or certain stuff to be able to then get a declaration to then fully wipe someone. Because one of the problems with like player retention is like I can just fully wipe someone anytime, right? And if you make the game where I have to go through certain steps to fully wipe someone, that makes players stay longer in the game than just instantly go wipe someone once I have all the stuff to rate him, right? Like if I want, I do want to be able to like do instance wars or instance 3v3, instance 5v5, instance 50, and then that have real world implications. And based on how many of those I win, then I can fully wipe someone, right? And you can do that in a small setting
that's
too.
Interesting.
Yeah. Because right now, if you, for example, New World, if you win at 50-50, you control that zone and you can tax everyone. I don't like the idea of being able to tax players because then that makes people get rich without having to play the game. I don't like that idea. I can you do that like Myth of Empires? Like when you control a zone.
So Myth of Empires was I actually truly enjoyed the way that it you could even you fight over even the PvE servers.
Mhm.
So there were a bunch of PvE servers and PvP servers. They were all connected, and it cost a bunch of gold to be able to transfer like an exorbitant amount to transfer to PvE servers. But you couldn't transfer any weaponry or any siege from PvE to PvP. Um, but you could fight over the PvE server in an instance battle. But the thing is it was all to be who would become emperor. So you'd get a rank, and that rank gave specific titles that you could give out to your people that gave them combat buffs. So you could give someone that got a bonus in two-hand weapons or a bonus in farming, or a bonus in building based on your company's highest rank. And in order to raise that rank, you needed to have so much real world territory. Now, you may be the lead, or what do they call it? Like the magistrate of a specific area, um, but that doesn't mean the people that actually lived in that area may not like you, right? They may be your enemies, but you let them live, okay, because you're taxing them. So they become your way of getting that money to go fight the next battle, right? Because it became like two large masses. Like it costed so much currency to transfer siege equipment from one place to the next. And if you wanted to go three nodes over, it became extremely expensive. So you needed those plebs, you needed all those people to fuel the war fund to be able to go for emperor. Because if you wanted emperor, you needed a large swath of land, and so that tearing up, and that fighting needing to be good on both instance battles and ground battles, and everything was the systems were a lot of fun.
Was
What
there
happened with that
a
game?
server cap?
There was server queue as well, yeah, and a server cap.
What was the cap? Was it like 70, 100?
Might
It
have
was
been
100.
100.
I think it was 100. It's Unreal 4 limitations. Yeah, I would really.
Do you think
I did
Unreal
enjoy
5
that.
is gonna have a larger cap?
Well, right now you can get 150 on Unreal Engine 4. I think Atlas had 150, and then once past that, it would crash. So I'm not sure what the limit on Unreal Engine allows you to. How many players you can have on Unreal Engine 5? I don't know. Don't know that. I hope it's higher than 100 players, and I hope it doesn't lag. So there's that. Lastly, touching on what Omni mentioned, I do like that idea of being able to control multiple zones and have that. And I would love the idea of having certain resources or things that you need outside of your safe zone. So when you which then allows for guerrilla warfare, because that's something we had in Last Oasis, where I had my renters farm certain resources that I couldn't go farm by myself, and that allows certain people to attack my outposts that don't necessarily need to be in a bigger tribe. Because if I have outposts that are not protected on a safe zone, that means I have to go there, protect that safe zone, that outpost, and then people in the smaller groups have the opportunity to attack those small outposts, which then leads to smaller players have an effect against bigger players, but not necessarily having the ability to fully wipe them. I kind of would like to see something like that, but I have to have how real war right now implications let's say Ukraine against Russia right now. Ukraine is pushing Russia, but Ukraine is hitting different outposts of Russia, and Russia can maintain every outpost they have available. So they're losing outposts and immediately losing territory, which I would like to see something like that in a game where I have to have outposts, and if I want to expand, I should be able to protect those outposts.
You want to see Ukraine invaded in a video game?
No. I'm talking about being able to have outposts in R2, right? And allow smaller groups to be able to attack those outposts, and not necessarily.
Are you talking about outposts?
Yeah,
okay.
Let's say
something that went through my head.
You're talking. You want to have systems where it requires there to be logistics for resources.
Yeah,
and those can be
exactly.
it doesn't take large groups to be able to attack those. So and that was all. Myth of Empires gets a bad rap, but they also had an auction house. They had a lot of really, really cool systems.
Would you like to see an auction house in R2?
I'll let you guys speak up first.
Would you auction house in ARK 2? I don't think that's gonna work.
How so?
Yeah, I don't think it'll work. I think an auction house needs items I
mean, you could probably trade dinos. There's an auction house mod in ARK 1, and it's kind of neat, but
Couldn't you just, if there was an auction house, couldn't you just bypass having a base just through living off an auction house, just putting the item in for an insane amount and then removing it when you needed it?
There will be gaming of every system.
I mean, yeah.
And the way that you get around that is if you put something up, there's usually a tax, right, of an auction house tax, where if you put something up, it costs a percentage of the cost that you put up. So you would go broke by doing so.
Question: would you prefer ARK servers or something like Atlas, where every square is a server? I guess there's servers on Atlas, right? It's you have to travel and you just enter a new zone.
It's just basically the same thing as ARK. It's just you don't have.
There's no visual representation of
Yeah, there's no visual presentation of the servers. It's just when you reach the world border, which is a very nice idea.
Which one do you prefer, though?
I prefer the Atlas Last Oasis system because I have a visual representation of where I'm going. Like right now,
yeah.
I would kind of like Atlas Mission of Fire, where you have EU, NA, Asia, Latin America, all connected. If I want to travel to EU and fight EU, I have that option, and not just I think in Atlas when it first came out, you could only go NA, EU. There was no connectivity between NA and EU. You didn't. Yes. So I would like to see that kind of connectivity where I have that option, but I don't necessarily need to do it, right? When it comes now, that touches into the next subject, so we can move on quicker. Do you think mega tribes will exist in R2, or would you like to see mega tribes?
It doesn't matter what you want; they'll exist.
You still think they'll still happen? Yeah?
Yep, but people congregate.
Sure, the Discords are already made, right? You have the TPG Discord with 2,000 members. It's gonna happen. There will be mega tribes, but it's just bad for the game.
Well, if they add raid timers, there's no need for me to have certain specific time zones in my tribe, which then allows me to have a smaller group. I think right now you have mega tribes because you need those other people to watch your base. So if they are something like raid timers, I don't need to have those other players. When we're playing Last Oasis, we only had 100 people. We didn't have Asian players went to do their own thing because they couldn't play in our time zone. So that kind of
Wasn't that
divided
they
us.
couldn't play in your time zone? It's that it was capped to 100 people
True
on
that.
the server. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's where it becomes. Is people will do the same thing they've always done, but it's based on the limitations and the systems by the game. You know what I mean? But they will take every possible inch, especially the ones not designed by the devs. I've always considered playing games. We've got the player versus the environment. We got player versus player, but the ultimate battle has always been players versus devs. And you've got to do and you're fighting all three all at the same time, in different levels. I may not go the Dougie route, where I'm making 10-foot story fucking human beings that can loot shit from across the world in Conan, but I will see what I can do to cheese every aspect, or play the game the way that I want to within my gray confines. You know what I mean?
Um, before we Toes, do you have any thoughts on that before I move to the next subject?
No. I'm good.
Okay, so what about? I know someone mentioned this to me that doesn't necessarily play ARK as much. When it comes to flying, it's more like a PV kind of feature. Flying in ARK 1 kind of shrinks them up a lot, and that's one of the worries some people have in ARK 2. With if you get flying early in the game, that kind of shrinks the map. Would you like to see flying be less of a thing, or like maybe move to the end game? How do you feel about like just the whole flying mechanic, especially the way it is in ARK 1, and like how would you like to see in ARK 2? Like, does it really matter to you, or? Because I personally would like to see flying on the late trajectory, like in game, or like not be like the only thing that I do to travel across the map, because that kind of makes the map smaller. It's like I remember when I played like No Tames, there were like parts of the map like I never seen before when I was on foot, and I was like, wait, I didn't know that was in there, because we were flying all the time. I don't see a lot of these things. So like, do you guys have any thoughts on that when it comes to flying? Does it matter?
I'm always
That's a
got an
tough
opinion,
question.
but I want to give other people
You want to hear from
the
me?
opportunity.
I have an opinion, but I'll just go ahead.
I don't like the idea of flying. I don't know.
Really?
Yeah. Like you said, it does shrink the game, or nerf flying somehow. Nerf. Maybe just flying to. I don't know, kind of like WoW did. They just had little outposts where you can take a griffin, like a flying. I forgot the name of it.
Flight Master.
Flight Master. Yeah, you can just pay to fly somewhere. But I don't know. Like a lot of other survival games, there isn't really flying, which means you just have more discovery. There's no flying in New World. There's no flying. I guess Toast and Omni played V Rising. There was bat form, which was cool, but before bat form, you could only ride horses around, which when you have flying, it does decrease the amount of exploration, like discovery.
But they limited in V Rising, right? You couldn't do it during the day.
Yeah.
And it didn't give
couldn't
you
carry
that
stuff with you, actually.
It couldn't carry shit, and it was unless you were doing that like thing to see people nearby, with the little social tab, you couldn't see the ground whether there were people. So I think V Rising did a good job of limiting the OP-ness of flying in their game.
New World, there's just teleporting. There's no flying.
Yeah.
Conan, I don't know how big the map is in Conan, but how do you get around?
You just use horses. There's no flying in Conan, so it does take a lot longer to get from point A to point B.
There's teleportation in Conan.
There's teleportation, but it's kind of limited.
What about the Empire game?
Age of Empires?
No, the one Omni was talking about.
There's bed porting, and then there's horses.
Yeah, I like less flying. So if we can have less flying, for me that would be great. But everyone has.
I don't see it happening though. We're ARK 2, like there's gonna be pterodons, there's gonna be quetzals.
There's gonna be there's gonna be a lot of that.
There's gonna be all that. Do you remember go back to your mob life? You weren't in the air right away, and when you were still very limited because you had shitty birds. You know what I mean? Now that you're experienced, you want to go get that. You know how powerful flying is, so you're gonna go get it very quickly. Um, but that's only because you know a note run, so you can go level up very quickly. And oh, I only need level 32 for this or level 45 for RG. And this is now 6 years later. So I remember running up Redwoods Mountain trying to find metal nodes, dying to terror birds. And man, did the world change when I could get up and I could see, oh, there's these two different mountains. It gives you a far different perspective. But PT I could only get a little bit of metal, with that PT, and have to go back and have to be worried because I don't have a lot of stamina. And so there's ways to limit the power of flying, and it was because we know how to game the game now. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And because we have the best things in the world possible, it's a lot different. But the way they gate it by levels, you didn't get it early game. You got it mid game in a sense, or early mid game for a PT. And then you get an RG, and man, does an RG help a lot, right? That quality of life. You can even craft in it, and you can do those things. So there's the balance of like keeping. I do agree, like keeping people on the ground means you have to explore the map on foot, and that's a completely different perspective. But
Mm-hmm.
it is also fun and cool to be able to get up in the air and finally be able to like kind of get bearings. I didn't have a bearing on the map until I was in the air.
Yeah, no, I like that answer.
On the topic of flying, right? It depends on what flying gives you, because depending on how the ARK 2 map is made, flying could give you like early game, like unraidable base location, with like on top of like some fat pillar. If you can fly and no one else can fly, you know what I mean? It's like your base is safe, which is probably what it's going to be at the start. I'd prefer to see it at the end game. So
That's still my concern.
yeah.
How's a base rating gonna happen? I don't think
We
we
have
have an
no
idea.
idea.
No, we have no
How the
information.
base.
It's all speculation.
Yeah.
into
Once they
the
give us,
abyss.
once they give us like gameplay video or like some more info how that's gonna work. Yeah, I
We should
hope
be
they give us
getting
that
it.
information not at the last minute on the day the game comes out, because I would like them to have some feedback if they give us a feature that we don't know about, right? So we'll see about that. Um, just moving to this topic a little bit quicker. What are you guys' thoughts on how much primitive is too much? Like we know that the game is gonna be very primitive. We're gonna be going back to no guns. I think they said there's not gonna be any guns in the game, right? It's gonna be bows, crossbows, a lot of melee weapons. What do you think is how much primitive is too much? Or your thoughts on just the game just being primitive? Especially for us that have like tech these days on ARK 1.
I love tech, so I may come back to ARK 1, honestly.
Really? Oh.
But we'll
What about
see.
you? What about you, Tels, Icebox? How much primitive is just too much primitive?
Primitive is too much.
Yeah.
As much as I love shooting a gun, I think it's okay that they don't have guns.
I
If
think
they're
it's
keeping it
fine.
primitive. Crossbow, bow. What else is? I mean, there's a handful of melee weapons you can name.
What about you, Tels? Any thoughts on just the primitive aspect?
I mean, depending on how primitive, do we have a crossbow or am I
We have
gonna
no
be
guns. No guns.
no crossbow ain't a gun, man. Like crossbow is a crossbow.
Well, this is slow, but yeah.
Yeah.
Can I get a Gatling crossbow?
Very cool.
Like, so it really depends on their, like, it's primitive, but it's also, these dudes came from the sky. You know what I mean? Like, we do have ruins of, what's her name? The fucking AI chick.
Helena?
They show, yeah, they show ruins of tech on the, so we are going to be interacting with higher tech. And I'm like Ludwig said, I'm good with less, stuff as long as the quality of life exists. If Element allows us to, even limitedly transport things, or do things that are like, okay, well, we don't have control over it, right? I don't get a tech rifle, I don't get a tech chest, but I get these quality of life things that basically represent magic. You know what I mean? As a justification of their existence. um, and then we will see how combat plays out.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. So now when it comes to, we know the game is gonna come out as an EA title. It's not gonna come out as a full game. I think they purposely want it to be as an early access title, so they can, I think that's gonna be their excuse, is like something missing or buggy.
Yeah, it's gonna be.
So what are you guys' thoughts on? Because this is a particular subject that I'm interested about, because when ARK first came out, it was a small team, and they only had like maybe 2-3 paid QA guys, and then you had a bunch of volunteer testers, and I was one of those volunteer testers. In my experience, and there were a lot of features and a lot of stuff that get added because the volunteer testers and the community were like, "This will be really cool in the game. Oh, you guys are gonna be adding this? This is kind of broken." And these are things before they even got out in the game. Like, things were like, a good example I can think of right now is like when underwater cubes were gonna come out. Walker did a balance patch on water teams, like the Basilo, for example. I think the Basilo back then could instantly regenerate the moment it went to like the surface. They had to balance that because the testers were like, you can't just add cubes and not fix the water teams, and they had to do a balance patch. So there's a reason. Yeah, sure, things got leaked because you have volunteer testers, but the volunteer testers did a lot for the game. Now, when you look at Atlas, for example, you had no volunteer testers, and you had all the feedback would go through Jad, but Jad is one person, right? And a lot of stuff did not get through to the people that made the decisions, right? Compared to R1 early access, there was a lot more direct line of communication between community and the people that make the big decisions. So my question is, do you guys would like to see maybe volunteer testers, or see more involved in the community than just compared to like Atlas as an example, where there was like barely any, it felt like there was barely any communication between community and the devs? You guys have thoughts on that?
I mean, I think they should have testers. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
They do. They have Q&A testers. Yeah. Their concern is the leaks, right? Have you guys? How much do you know about? What is it? Fucking Diablo 4. Shit was leaked the day of. You know what I mean? We know everything about Diablo 4 that's there is to know, because people blatantly leaked, didn't give a shit, and it's gonna happen.
Yeah. But also, when you look at for example, Genshin Impact, multi-billion-dollar company, it still has volunteer testers. And when things get leaked in Genshin Impact, that sparks interest in the characters they're adding. So there's gonna be always leaks, but also leaks it's like free marketing too at the same time. So it's like volunteer testers is like a bless and a curse at the same time.
I do think that there's intentional accidental leaks, because it's better to say that it was leaked than it was released in some aspect.
Right. Yeah. I personally think that I would like to see more the way it was in R1, because you had more input than in Atlas. Because in Atlas, I would tell someone to adapt a community manager or a QA guy, and maybe it got through, maybe it didn't. We don't know, right? But when you had community testers, like, you had a spreadsheet where you just submit suggestions, and maybe some of them like got read by the people that made decisions, some don't. It was there was, I felt like there was more engagement between community and the devs compared to like R1.
I'm down with it's going into early access. That's cool. But like, I want them to take as long as possible. Let the let the Q&A keep it locked up. It's fine. I know we want it now. You know what I mean? But I'm tired of fucking half-cocked games. I want to play a game that's done. You know what I mean, or near done.
Same.
Yeah, same here, I guess. So I think we already touched a little bit on this. Feature mechanic you would like to see in R2 that's not in R1. It's just a feature in general. You can think of
a feature from ARK 1.
No, not necessarily R1, but like a mechanic or something you would like to see in R2. I think for me is I already said crop bots in ARK1, but I would like to see a like an action house. Doesn't exist on ARK1. I'd like to see an R2, but I don't know how that's gonna work.
Less fractured community.
Less fractured community.
I want everyone that plays on PvE to also be within the same realm of the people that play on PvP.
True.
I don't know how that would work though, because PvE players don't want anything to do with PvP, and no matter what.
Fine, but they can participate in the economy. They can participate in other aspects of the game, and fracturing them means that we've got from experience how robust the 1x official PvP community is. You know what I mean? It's not that robust. There's and while there's all of these other people that play on PvE that would maybe potentially eventually want to try out PvP, but there's no possibility because there is no bridge, and yes, there needs to be balancing and systems and all that shit figured out. But we are still playing the same game, but we're not allowed to play together.
Maybe you should be able to move your character from PvE to PvP. Since you have to run the bosses anyway. That's normal ARK, in theory. You'd to make that bridge, instead of having the PvEers make a fresh character from 0 to 190, just let them transfer the character to official PvP servers. It would skip a lot. I don't know, just an idea.
Well, then people would just like level out their character on PvE, and then once they're fully level.
Talking about that, I guess there's a lot of systems that I really, really liked about Myth of Empires. Did you know everyone starts off on PvE servers on Myth of Empires?
Yeah, it was great. It was great.
And you could either stay there, or you could rush over to PvP servers that had bonus rates, that had benefits of being on PvP servers, bonus XP rates, and all these things.
That's cool.
I
like that.
Yeah, but you could also lose all your shit. You know what I mean? And you could transfer to and from, right? Naked, at no cost. But if you wanted to bring anything back to PvE, we're talking it was super hella expensive, right? If you wanted to transfer anything off of PvE, it was still relatively expensive, and you couldn't bring siege weapons, right? You couldn't bring anything that would affect the PvP dynamic. You could bring, I think you could bring weapons and armor, but it was, again, extremely, like, it was like you got to be buying your gold to want to move shit. You know what I mean? And so they were able to limit that. But the fact that all the people that wanted to stay and play on PvE they had a harder time because the rates were lower, so it was more difficult to build up, to maintain, to do all of these things. But a year into the game, 6 months into the game, if they wanted to have a go at going and trying to participate in PvP, which again they could still PvP on the instance battles, being on a PvE server, they could fight the PvPers for control over the ownership of the server, right? Being the magistrate. So they could not. They could live their life and breed and do all the things, enjoy the game, but having that option, and again, that bridge where 6 months in, maybe you want to, right? Maybe you want to try, and you get slapped around, so you stay on PV, or you get enough people where you rise up to go against the PvP overlords that aren't paying attention, because you never were a problem. And all of that variety and that flavor, and again, the fact that the community is one, even though separate, is what I'm looking for.
I did like that a lot from Middle of Empires. But yeah, I think if that game had not been removed from Steam, I think it would have been successful. Because when it first came out, it had very little players, and it was gaining players instead of losing players. And then because of the whole, I think because they stole a lot of stuff from ARK and they got sued, they had to remove from Steam. But it was one of those games that could have probably been very successful because they had a lot of things that I would love to see in another survival game. So yeah. And lastly,
Like, what if
Go
ARK
ahead.
had some kind of like escape from Tarkov feel?
How's that
That's
work?
not gonna happen. But yeah, I don't know. I was trying to think of how it could work. It'd be like you can upload your character and gear over to a server, and then there's a whole island or that server where you could go and scavenge your farm, and then you have to leave the island somehow.
Instance battles, yeah, they're dope. I'm super down with it. It
Yeah.
gives, like you've got your home, your mainland, but being able to go and do other things elsewhere and risk reward, it's cool.
I think
And then
instance anything would be really cool. I would love to be able to queue up to like an instant event like Lost Ark. I love to be able to like I'm doing my daily things and there's like event popping up, just queue up for it, world raid, dungeon, whatever. I just love the idea of being able to just do things that don't necessarily because one of the problem with like survival game is like I have to go look for the fun. There's no fun being provided for me. I have to always create what I want to do instead of like, hey, this is what's gonna happen at this time. You want to join? Cool, awesome. Instead of like like sometimes like which I think leads to grief in some of the games because you have to like go look for that engagement.
mm-hmm.
So instance
And then I think from New World, they have actual outposts that you can PvP and fight for, and if you control that outpost, you gain a 5% increase to resource gathering. Other outposts do other things like reduce travel costs. Or maybe there's an outpost that says reduced taming speed, kind of like the missions in Genesis.
Yeah,
Like
gentle
increased
missions.
taming, yeah, kind of,
Yeah.
but like PvP outposts that give you that, and you have to fight for having that instead of
Yeah.
everyone on the server gets that bonus.
Well, I think that's pretty much it when it comes to the podcast. Do you have any final thoughts, open mic? Anything you want to talk about before we close out?
Yeah, what the fuck happened on 529?
apparently we insided it. Apparently we
All
insided
right,
it.
so Chad, you hear
Yeah.
TPG insided their own
Yeah,
fob.
apparently either did or our alliance. I don't know. I logged on, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna sim while we do this podcast, and then I see
That was my plan. I was just waking up and
yeah,
getting
I was
ready
gonna
for
I was,
battle.
I was gonna join. I was like, hey, yeah, let's go PvP, and apparently someone insided the thing. Now they're saying it was TPG. They're saying it was Hydra. I don't know. It got insided. Fun ruin. That's
All
our
right, so
politics.
what's up? What's the state of DTF? Are they in? Have they joined Kibble?
Don't
Or
know.
where?
Actually, don't know. That's a good question. See, that's one of the things about
Because
ARK.
you guys pulled out, and from what
Did
I'm
we?
hearing, N1S and TPG, you guys kicked all of Gang Gang, took all of Gang Gang's allied vault
Oh
stuff.
shit.
Supposedly there was a bunch of resources and the good stuff, and I had just put 20 of my blue bats over there too. You guys stole my
Oh.
blue bats, my green pigs. You know what I mean?
Oh.
Now you know what it feels like to get insided of me. Now you know how it feels. 2019 flashbacks. Best times. Like 2019 we got insided really hard too. I mean, I don't know.
Thoughts on how you want blueprints to work on ARK 2?
I would like them to be the way it is with um Atlas in mechs, where you just have a limited amount of like crafts. That way, you have to look for more blueprints.
Do you like that idea, Omni?
Sorry, I was zoned out reading chat. What was that?
Just thoughts on how you want blueprints to work on Arc 2? And then
I mean,
Dolphin said kind of like
for the
Atlas
most part,
having a
I'm
limited.
open. I'm open to like we talked about SOTF. The world's your oyster. There's so many right ways that you can do it. As long as you don't pick a wrong way, you know what I mean. There it can be found, it could be learned, like you could have all of the base blueprints, and as you level your character you can make better ones. Like I honestly, like, I'm open to 9,000 different variations of it, as long as it's fun to play, and and it works. If it works good, then I'm happy with it.
Yeah.
I like Dolphin's response. The idea of having a limited craft.
Yeah, the
Doesn't
way
have to be
Atlas does
small
it.
number like 3, but it can be 10.
Oh, I actually didn't like the limited craft. I hate the limited craft on fucking tech rifles or tech pistols, or limited craft
Because
on mechs.
you could amass them. That was the because you could
Well,
just
you gotta
That's the
go.
that's the thing.
You gotta
You
go
don't.
do the drops again, which is, I understand. You gotta go. That's looping content, right? Oh, I gotta go get more and stuff. But man, was it a nuisance.
True, it was on Atlas. It was when you needed sales and you got 3 sales, and then you spent 12 more hours to get 3 more sales.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would like to be limited, but not the way it is in Atlas, where you can only make 5. Like if I can make 20, cool. But if I have if there's no if there's no limit, that kind of I'm sitting on my base making an infinite amount of something.
What if it's like you learn the blueprint, but only that character can craft it.
Well, what if that
Kinda like
character
New
lives you
World?
thrive then? Because that happened in New
Well,
World.
then,
I
yeah,
have
sucks.
we gave a crafter a lot of stuff, and that crafter stopped playing, and now we lost our crafter in New World. And that was,
On New World, yeah.
Oh well, I mean, it wasn't their fault. The devs decided to ban them because they thought they were duping because they're shitty servers.
Well, yeah, no.
That's a
kinda,
real world that actually happened to a
Yeah.
lot of main crafters.
yeah, like that's why I'm not a fan of like only one person being able to like be able to craft or be like designated person. Like if I have blueprints, I want to be able to like craft a limited.
Do you think
time.
oh, that's a whole system, but leveling weapons, like an
Right. So
actual
leveling. Yeah, leveling in general. I think I mentioned this on the podcast I did with Raslak. I would like leveling to be more in touch with. I think they already said I'm not sure how I think they explained a little bit how they want leveling to be in Ardu, but I personally like leveling in Valheim, where it's like not necessarily you go level from 1 to 50. It's more like you discover a carrot, and then suddenly all these recipes pop up. You can make all this stuff with a carrot, right? And then you go explore, discover another item, and then the game tells you all the cool things you can make with that, which leads to
It's kind of
exploration.
like Grounded, Omni.
Is it?
That sounds like Grounded a little bit.
Yeah, very similar to Grounded. Once you get items, it unlocks some things, but you can also never get those items. But because you've leveled up your main level, you eventually unlock all of those things, right? Or at least the majority of them. It gave to like a discovery of, like, if you're gonna go, you kill this new thing or whatever, you have the potential of unlocking new stuff. That is cool. I thought you were referring to on Valheim. There is the leveling system of very not Skyrim, but like Oblivion-esque. The more you jump, you level your jump.
Yeah.
The more you swing, you level your swing. As simple as that is, I've always enjoyed it. But with Valheim, you also had, when you die, you lost a bunch of fucking levels too, of everything.
Not a fan of like losing XP levels, because like
Yeah,
sometimes you just die. Sometimes you die to glitches, right? And
Yeah,
it's like,
the deficit experience. I think Ashes of Creation may have experience deficit, but it may be resulted in criminal activity.
That would be interesting. I don't know how that
Mm.
would work in R2. Like R2, they said they're gonna have a skill tree system, right? So I'm not sure how's that gonna work, right?
A skill tree system.
Yeah.
I would
Is that
assume
like classes?
A skill tree
Yeah.
for
like,
each weapon.
We don't know. The skill tree
So
system.
That'd be a lot.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Doug.
Icebox. Did you play Atlas?
Yes.
Okay,
Like
remember when
early
Okay,
stage of Atlas.
early stage Atlas? You had the talent trees where you could spec
Oh, that's
using
right.
an ace,
Yes.
spear, or pistol, or whatever. I'd assume it'd be the same thing.
I don't want it to be
Okay.
like Atlas like that. Nah, that was not fun. Because
They might though.
that's just so simple. It's just so meh.
It works though. I don't.
It does work. It's not a good implementation on Atlas, but it does work in theory. It just needs to be better implemented.
And I agree with you, Valor. It does. Like on Myth of Empires, all we did was spam the same thing for hours and hours. So I'm not saying like
like a sub levels that we talking about.
But I do like it's still nostalgic. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
To like we've done that many times. I don't think it should be something different moving forward. So it doesn't. And that's a great example of the way a system is built results in the way that players will play the game. You know what I mean? And so if you're telling me I can just sit here and jump for 10 hours and I'm going to be better at the thing I want to, I'm a fucking jump here for 10 hours. So it's a very difficult thing for devs to develop a game and try to envision how the players are going to react and how they're going to use these systems, because we're going to go on the fringes, the edges of what you've given us so that we can take the fun out of it to be more efficient.
Well, very true. I do hope they push content when it comes to that more frequently than they did with Atlas. No, I don't know if they'll do like weekly dinos like they didn't. I don't know if you guys remember when R first came out, we were getting like a dino every 2 weeks. I don't think we're gonna get that in R2, but I don't want it to be like Atlas where we would get a content every quarter or every 3 months, because that would just like your player base relies on content. So if you're not giving us content constantly, then you're gonna start losing players. So it's like that balance of like, give me good content, but give me content as frequently as possible, right? Without crushing, like bugging the game too much. That's something I would like to see.
I think they maybe not at a like a quick pace, but that's why like League of Legends and the revamping of characters and redoing things, it keeps it kind of alive. Yeah, I've said that before. But in ARK, they do TLCs, they do new dinos, new maps, couple new dinos. It may not be at a very fast pace at the moment, but they still do change the meta, right? Gen 2 completely changed the meta. You know, even Valgaro changes the meta in some ways.
Right, and that's why player retention is very important. Like they cannot make the same mistakes they did with Atlas and like other survival games. You need to figure out ways to retain players without losing players by adding something that suddenly kills the game, right? That's why testing is very important, and community testing is also very important when it comes to that. Like adding a PTR before you.
But just like how I do play games, sometimes said earlier, when they had people test the game, right? But those were the people that found out the early game dupes, and they didn't. So they were testing it to
benefit themselves,
to get an advantage, and things like that. Like we tested V Rising, right? We had it like a day or two before the game came out, because it was like streamer privilege bullshit. So I already knew how to beeline to end game, because I took a couple hours to learn the basic. It takes a couple hours to be in a game, soak in like what we're supposed to be doing and stuff like that. And even those couple of hours of advantage puts you at a far more advantage than everyone still having to figure out the controls.
So something really quickly, someone's asking in chat, how do you guys think breeding is going to be implemented? If you guys want to throw questions to us in chat, please go ahead in the chat. We'll try to bring some of your questions. But yeah, like, how do you guys think breeding is going to work? Like, I like to see breeding more in line with putting things in a menu than it is right now. Like, I don't want to have 200 dinosaurs in my cave and then do breeding that way, because that's just like too much lag, too much FPS loss. I would like to see, put them all in a box, whatever you want to call it. Click, add a few clicks to breed it, give me the X that way. That way I'm not rendering 100 dinosaurs. That's the way I would
remember,
love to see
run Unreal Engine 5.
I mean, it's right, but it's still, you are going to be rendering hundreds and hundreds of dinosaurs if you just leave it the way ARK is. Like, you're going to need a decent setup. So, and I think R2, they wanted to reach as many people as possible. So not everyone has a 3080, 4080, Ti to like play the game fully. So like, you still need to add systems that don't let you render hundreds of dinosaurs, in my opinion. That's why I want to see breeding more like in a menu. That's just that's my opinion on it. Yeah.
Whose server is 616?
616. That's Gen 1. I don't know.
By Kibble gang shit. So Kibble Reformed.
That's not Kibble.
No, it's capped by Kibble Reformed.
Oh. I don't know, man. Well, I don't care about what
ARK School? Oh, fob. We got a fob, bro. It's capped.
I'm gonna go sim after this podcast. But yeah. Anything else would you guys to talk about if we're not getting any more questions? Demo's an official for breeding. Okay. Oh. Yeah. I mean, I think that's pretty much it, I guess.
Yep.
It was. I think we're gonna end it there. It was a pleasure having you guys. I didn't think we're almost at 3 hours. That went longer than I expected.
Your stream says 148.
249 for me.
249.
Yeah, 250 for me. Yeah.
We're almost at 3 hours. So,
damn.
Any final thoughts? You guys want to give where people can find you? Toast, do you want to tell people where they can find you? What do you have going on?
Icebox, you do it. Go.
Where we can find Toast?
No. Where can find you?
Where can we find you, Icebox?
It's you Toast.
Deep in Alaska.
Twitch.tv. Honestly, right now I'm just kind of playing random games. Right now, I was playing New World.
There was a new survival game that came out, Frozen Flame. I told Willie that I wanted to like jump on it for like a day or two.
Frozen Flames.
It's not like super amazing, but it's like, and it won't be as good as Grounded.
Is it free? You know me, I'd join any game you decide to want to hop on, as long as it doesn't cost $50
too.
I mean, I don't know even the cost of it, but once the 3X was over, and there's no wars, I'm down to jump on it for like a day or two.
What about you, Toast? Where people can find you?
You can find me on twitch.tv utoast. I will be streaming. Probably the only thing I will be streaming is Smalls or ARK content or ARK related content. Yeah.
What was I saying? Okay, what I'm waiting for is I'm excited to actually play Classic ARK, which they announced. And if no one knows, the Classic ARK seasons, basically I think it's before it has no tech.
No tech, that's right, yeah.
And I think it's 25 player limit and no cave building. No tech, no cave building, 25 player limit. They do have cryopods, I think, still. And then there's certain maps that don't exist. But that's on December 15th. So up until December 15th, I think I'm not going to be touching ARK 1. Maybe Survival of the Fittest? I don't know. When did they announce that?
We don't. It's supposedly December, but that could be any time in December.
Okay. I'm just waiting for that too. Twitch.tv Icebox.
Awesome. Omni?
We just launched a new OnlyFans. You can find me over there.
Wait, let me.
But or
Let me write that down.
yeah, no, yeah, we've got, you know, you'll see me in ARK. We'll be playing different games. But just you know, yeah, that's fine.
Cool. And yeah, people can find me at twitch.tv stars Mr. Dolphin, obviously the channel you're watching, or on Mr. Dolphin 101 on YouTube. I stream pretty much maybe once, twice every week because I've been very busy RL. But yeah, we'll be doing another podcast probably next month. Probably not be with the same crew here. We might do a different crew as well because I do want to talk to some of the other parts of the community. We don't get to talk about like the builders. There's like a lot of people that are involved, like really into like the storytelling sort of ARK. There's a lot of people that just do building, taming, tutorials and stuff like that. I would love to have those people come up and talk about the game, stuff that I actually don't know about. So yeah, it was a pleasure having you guys. I will see you next time. Thank you all for coming. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
I appreciate the invite. Thank you.
Appreciate it.